All right. Welcome to The Mountain in the Valley, a podcast dedicated to bringing dignity back to hard work and telling the stories of those who do. Tonight, we have with us Scotty from Concord River Fabrication in Maine. He's Western Maine, well north of where I am in Pennsylvania. It's probably 40 below and springtime up there by now, but either way, we're going to have a good conversation tonight. We're going to get straight down to business. Where Scott's from, uh, how he got where he is, and what lessons he's learned from a life in the trades. So, Scotty, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So, tell everybody where you're at in Maine, because I'll butcher it.
I'm in Rumford, Maine, Western Mountain region, close to the New Hampshire border, not far from Canada.
Not far from Canada. Well, I'm thankful that you're still in the good old red, white, and blue. We don't have to make you the 51st state anytime soon. It's really cool. I met Scott. Do you want to go by Scott or Scotty? I see you wrote down Scotty, but
Either one is fine.
Yeah, is it? Okay, cool. Because I'm a Daniel, and I've never once in my life been called Danny or Dan. I don't know why. Probably because I'm like, I'll scowl if someone does that. But either way, I don't want to call people by the wrong name. So either way, anyway. So I met Scott at the Fabricator Olympics this fall at Kevin Johnson from the Welding Business Owners podcast puts on. And Scott is the number one guaranteed best, most skilled fabricator according to that competition. So you won this year's Fabricator Olympics. It was pretty cool. There were some ups and some downs over there. It was raining the whole time. So if you know where Loserville is, the whole competition was in Loserville, raining constantly all the time. Electric was going out. They were running cables into the building and then out. And it was awesome. It was just like the real world. And so he won that whole competition. I got to meet him there, a couple other guys that I've known on the internet. And so it was really cool to meet him. And I just wanted to bring his unique perspective here to you guys, to the podcast. And so where did you grow up, Scott? What was that like?
Yeah, so I grew up in this house. My father built this place in '83 in my grandfather's cow pasture. I grew up here and was able to buy it when my parents moved. So I'm a lifer in this town. I don't plan to ever leave. And I got my start here, and my finish will be here.
Nice. So what kind of a town is it? Is it rural? Is it urban? I have an idea because of where you live, but what's it like up there?
Yeah, it's a tiny paper mill town. Last I knew, we had like 5,000 people. So it's not the smallest town, but it's not big by any means. And my shop is right here at the house, and I'm 10 miles from downtown, which is not much.
No,
So yeah,
okay.
I'm right out in the woods.
Okay. And so you went to school there. What was that like? What was it like growing up in a small town like that I would imagine in the 90s, based on the color of your beard?
Yeah. Well, I'm 38, but I look like I'm 68, and I feel like I'm 88. Uh, but no, it was good. Being a small town, your core group of friends is real tight knit. Everyone's like family. And
Mhm.
I started working when I was 12 on the farm down the road during hay season. Um, we have ski resorts around here, so when I was 14, I got my worker's permit and taught snowboarding with another friend of mine. Uh, Riding bikes, riding BMX that was my life growing up. Looking at me now, you wouldn't guess it. That was about 200 pounds ago. But actually, I used to go to Pennsylvania for BMX camp. Have you ever heard of Camp Woodward?
Oh yeah, that's up the
Yeah,
road from us about an hour and a half,
no
almost
kidding.
an hour and 45. Yeah, it's a
Yeah, I've
great
been
place.
there 3 times.
Nice.
So that was my life growing up. My group of biking friends. It was every single day we'd get together. I was fortunate enough that my parents they've always supported everything that I've ever done. And so I like I said, I live 10 miles out of town. I could get a ride to town with my mom like every day just to go ride. And
Nice,
yes,
nice.
there was. I'll be
So,
forever grateful for that. But
mm,
that's what we did. We rode bikes. We didn't cause too much trouble, and we all started working pretty young to pay for our bike habit.
mm-hmm. Yeah. So when you say biking, it wasn't like, were you like racing BMX, or were you like, how do you, trick riding,
Yeah,
flatland,
freestyle,
freestyle? Okay.
little flatland, but mostly freestyle dirt jumps. We had some cool trails that we had built,
Mhm.
and yeah,
Yeah.
no
All right.
no racing.
No racing.
No.
Yes. Good. Yeah, that's awesome. I grew up. For anyone who doesn't know, I grew up skating. So
Yeah.
all my friends were skateboarding, inline skating, BMX kids, and I don't know how it was for you. I'll probably we'll probably get into this a little bit, but like it was. I mean, I graduated high school in 1999, and it was rough to be a skateboarder, to be BMX. Like everyone around was into sports, and we
Hmm.
were like degenerate, according to those folks. We were like
Yeah.
losers who had this weird obsession with smashing our faces into the ground, and basically hurting ourselves. And so, like, how was it? It like culturally, culturally is kind of a funny way to say it, but like, what was the culture of BMX like, or kind of like extreme sports? Like, were you watching X Games? Were you looking up the guys? How was that for you?
Oh
Like, what
yeah,
was it?
yeah. Watching videos was our big thing.
Ah, yes,
Road Fools too. That video will have a place in my heart for forever. Uh,
ever.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. There's a group in town that the inline skaters, we call them fruit booters. The fruit
Yep.
booters and the skateboarders. They're
Hmm.
TFR, Team from Rumford, and
Mm,
those guys are all in their 40s now, and they rock the TFR license plates, and
that's so
we looked
sick.
up to them. They were
Yeah.
the cool guys, and
Hmm.
it's a big jock town. Football is a big thing.
Hmm.
I quit playing sports when I was in fifth grade because biking was all I did, and
Hmm.
we didn't really hang out with the jocks, but it wasn't. There was no animosity. They did their thing. We did ours. Yeah, it wasn't really a problem.
Right on, right on. And you say you started working like 12, 13, that kind of like early adolescent time. So you're BMXing, um, you're starting into work, and it's not like at the grocery store, right? Like
Right.
it's, you said
I was
making hay.
I was stacking hay bales. It was
Nice.
I wanted to buy a 3-piece crank for my bike, and
Mm-hmm.
a guy at the local shop, he had one. He'd sell me used, and I needed to make like $100. And when I'm 12, $100
Mm-hmm.
is a ton of money. Well, I made it stacking hay bales and wrapping round bales, and
Mm-hmm.
took all summer to do it to make $100. But I made it. I earned it myself, and I
Heck
went and
yeah,
bought
man.
my parts. Yeah, and I remember my mom brought me down. It was like we made a whole day of it. It was a big deal. And my
Mm-hmm.
parents probably would have bought it for me, but I wanted to do it myself.
Yeah, yeah. There's something really. So number one, I think about this a lot because again, I grew up in this like crazy mid '90s, early 2000s skate culture, punk rock, hardcore music. Like it was a you know, yes, mom was driving me to the skate shop. I'm not gonna say like my mom didn't drive me to the skate shop ever, but it was very much like if you wanted it, you had to build it, you had to make it. The amount of like handrails that I butchered in my garage with a little Lincoln Buzz box. The amount of quarter pipes I built in the road in front of my house, like we would like lay them all out, two quarter pipes, a box, a couple rails, and then we'd have to drag them in every time a car drove
Oh
by.
yeah,
Like it
yep.
was just. We would always pretend we were like in Wayne's World, except we weren't playing hockey. Game on, game on, car. Uh, but there was just something about that do it yourself culture that's basically made in skateboarding or BMX. It's really good. It's really good for you.
Absolutely.
What do you think about that? Like, what lessons did you learn because you like? If you think about it, like I was into BMX. I had to do it myself. Like, how did that help
Oh,
or hurt you? Uh,
setting goals and striving for them. That you're pushing it all the time. You want to learn that next trick. Uh,
mm-hmm.
I mean, you physically beat the snot out of yourself, but you have that drive to keep going for it all the time, and that just never goes away because you learn that trick, you finally land it. All right, now can I do a bar spin out of that, or can I
Mm-hmm.
180 into it?
Mm-hmm.
And you just
Yep.
constantly pushing the envelope in the progression. So it's constantly having a goal to chase after, and I could totally translate that into what I do now.
Mm-hmm.
I hadn't really
Mm-hmm.
thought about that before, but yeah, because it's like it's a game you're playing with yourself to
Yeah.
to do better all the time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I
It's
never thought
weird,
of that.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's really weird. You know, there's so many lessons from that kind of cult, like that growing up that way that you don't learn in team sports.
yeah,
Because if you say you can do that over, that gap, if you say it, right, and you're like, hey guys, I can do this gap, and I could do it with a 360, or I could do it with a bar spin, or I could do it one footed or one handed, you know, and then you go to do it and you can't, there's no one to blame. It's literally
right.
just you. Nobody cares though. Like they're not like, "Oh, you suck." They're just like, "Oh, okay, cool." And if you say you can do something enough times and you don't, and you're not able to make it happen, they just don't believe you anymore. And it's not like they're
Mm-hmm.
going to kick you out, but they're just like, "Oh, okay, that's Scott. He doesn't really know much, you know." But
Yeah,
if you can practice in private and practice and practice and practice and practice and practice and practice and smash your face off the ground a million times and you get it, they're like, all right. And I know it's skateboarding, it's like smash your board against the ground to clap. I don't know what it
yeah,
is with BMX guys, but like that was the thing. Like, and you were living for their approval. You were living to make that next trick. You were living to get like, oh, I blew my bearings out. Guess what I have to do? I have to, and you never looked up to the guy whose mom and dad bought him everything.
mm,
That wasn't usually the cool guy in your group. It was everyone that just kind of like bootstrapped it, and if that isn't a template for self employment, I don't know what is. Like you want to get over there, and there's a lot of pain in the middle, and you're
right.
willing to just. I mean, with skating, like I'm willing to just smash my shins with a hammer or curb a rail.
Yeah,
I'm willing to smash my shins for weeks to do this thing that no one cares about.
right. And no
Um,
one cares about it. It's just
no one
because
cares.
it's just for you.
It's just literally just for me. And if I don't do it, nothing happens. And if
Mm-hmm.
I do it, nothing really happens. Like you're still going to have the same friends. You're not going to make any more money or less money. There's
Right.
just so many lessons that come from it. And if you play soccer, which I love soccer, my daughter plays a lot of soccer. I love it. She's learned a lot of great lessons from it. But one lesson she didn't learn is like how to do it by herself. She never learned that lesson. There's always like,
Mm-hmm.
well, my team didn't do this, or I scored 3 goals, but the goalie let 3 in. Just is what it is,
Yeah.
and there's no, there just isn't. There's no like, and you know what? Every time she had a soccer game, there was somebody there with a cooler full of Gatorade and some orange slices for them. It was like dad and mom approved. They could just do. They just here you go to this place, do this thing. But with BMX, with skateboarding, it's not mom and dad approved. Even if they loved it, even if they loved you, like no one was packing you lunch.
Right.
Like no one was like, hey, and then come to the field at this point at 9 a.m. and we'll have a ref there. It was
Yeah.
just if you wanted to get out there, you did it, and if you didn't,
Right.
you didn't. And so yeah, there's a lot of good stuff in there. It's cool. I'm not surprised anymore. I'm pleasantly happy. I'm just happy because most of the people that I talk to who are like just crushing it or just grinding it out in this self-employment space, doing really well in the trades, a lot of them, I mean, a majority of them come from a snowboarding, BMX, skateboarding. Like that's where they come from.
Yeah.
That kind of extreme. kind of just like no one's looking, we're just going to grind it out here, kind of space. There's so many good things in there. But
Yeah,
anyway.
that's interesting. It really does translate well.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. The single mindedness. You ever think like the single minded drive to accomplish a task? They're just wrestling does that for kids, but like there just aren't a lot of things that develop such a single minded, focused kind of pattern of existing. And if you look at the extreme sports world, there there are quite a few well known uh, motocross riders, snowboarders, skateboarders that build very successful companies that have not a whole heck of a lot to do with skateboarding or BMX or motocross.
Right.
Like they're shoe companies, they're
Yep.
shirt company. Like they're just Ken Block is a Travis Pastrana, like these well-known figures. They're not successful like that by accident. It's because they beat
Mm.
themselves to death doing something nobody cared about for a long
Right.
time, and
Yeah.
it's like a
Yeah.
one to
Not
one.
taking no for an answer. You don't let yourself fail. It's
Yeah,
just you get your mindset on that trick or that move with your business, and you're gonna just hammer it until it happens,
yeah,
or die
yeah.
trying.
Right, right, and not doing it for the approval. Like nobody's clapping, nobody's
Right.
clapping, and yeah. So anyway, yeah, it's so cool. It's so cool to hear that you grew up BMXing and BMX riding, freestyle. That's great. I had a funny feeling about it. I had a funny feeling. So when you were, let's okay, so you're 14, you're 15. You said you got your working papers. You're teaching snowboarding. So
Yeah.
you weren't just into BMX. I mean, if you're teaching snowboarding, you're probably into that a little bit.
Yeah.
What uh, what did you want to be? You're 15, 16 years old. What did you want to be when you grow up? Like, what were
Well,
you hoping
so
for?
I was about when I was 15. It was BMX where I learned about machining.
Mm,
I remember
mm,
I got a S&M Redneck. It was a new stem for my bike, and had all these clean chamfers on it. And my buddy said, "Oh, look, you could tell that was machined." I said, "What's that mean?" And he explained to me a little bit about cutting metal. And
mm-hmm,
then I rode Schwinn's, and
mm-hmm.
I snapped my rear axle. Now most BMX bikes had either a 3/8 rear axle or a 14 millimeter, but these XS hubs on the Alex triple walls, there were a 13 millimeter axle, and you couldn't find one anywhere.
Hmm.
So my father, he was a maintenance superintendent at the paper mill in town. He says he was in charge of the machine shop. So he says, "Give me the broken pieces of that axle." He went in, gave it to one of the guys there, and he machined me a new 13 millimeter axle. He said, "Well, that's what machining is. You can make
Outstanding.
parts like this." So that, all right, well, and the guy that made it happened to be my best friend's grandfather.
Nice.
So I said, "Wow, maybe I want to be a machinist." And that was my plan right on. So I was about 15 or 16 when that happened. And I wanted to be a machinist right up until my senior year of high school. I took a machine tool class at school. We had a tech school that we go to every other day. And I
Okay.
took metal trades my senior
Okay.
year. And doing it, I got discouraged because I wasn't good at math on the fly, doing
Mm.
math in my head. Even simple math, I got to write it down. And
Mm-hmm.
I always come up with a million reasons why I can't do something that I have to try to overcome, but that's just naturally what I do. Go, oh well, I'm not good at math. I can't be a machinist. So I ended
Hmm.
up switching gears and went to I went to college for automotive.
Okay.
And actually, I could back up. When I was 15, I got a job at the bike shop in town. I worked there for
Nice.
4 years.
Nice.
Yeah, that's kind of a neat story, I guess.
Yeah.
The eighth grade class would always take a field trip to go whale watching, and what they would do, owner of the bike shop was a seventh grade science teacher.
Oh,
So
sweet.
yeah, and so he would sell Christmas trees at Christmas time, and he'd have the seventh grade class come and work for the day selling trees. and then he would donate that money for that class when they went to 8th grade to go on their whale watching trip. So I went down to sell
Man, I love
Christmas
small
trees.
towns. I love
Yeah,
small towns. I do.
yeah,
It's like that's like the greatest thing, man. Your seventh grade teacher also owns a bike shop. He sells Christmas trees. You have Votech. You have a trade introduction to trades. You got farms. You got dude. That's excellent. That's just a
yeah.
wonderful way. You got a paper mill in town. Like that's a beautiful thing. And
There
your
really is a
seventh
lot
grade,
going on.
like your seventh grade teacher cared enough because he knew
Hmm.
you guys, and like I don't know, there's just something really beautiful about that I think maybe we miss as we grow big and just go out into more urban areas. Like you just miss that personal, like somebody actually cared about you. Um,
Hmm.
that's awesome. Yeah. So
Yeah, it was.
sorry to interrupt you.
No, no, no. It's fine. It's fine. Uh, there's a lot of good things about this tiny town. You know, being a kid, you kind of get sick of it. And as I got
Hmm.
older, even when my wife is from Massachusetts, and when she came up here, she started pointing out all the beautiful things that I had just kind of become complacent to.
Hmm.
And it's like, wow, you know, we are surrounded by beautiful farms, and you look out the window, and there's just a mountain range right there. Uh, the tight knit community that even where she's
Hmm.
from, not that far away, she says that it's just totally different.
Hmm.
And no, I don't take that for granted so much these days. But
Yeah.
anyway,
Yeah. So
I'm
anyway,
trying to
you're
think.
selling
So
Christmas trees.
I'm selling Christmas trees, and I have my bike with me, and
Hmm.
I bought a tire while I was there for my bike, and I asked my teacher, I said, Mr. Wallace, can I use one of this bike stands to mount this tire on my bike? Yeah, yeah, go ahead. So I'm in there, and I've never worked on a stand before, but you know, so it's like heaven for me. I got the bike on the
Hmm.
stand. I'm using their tools, and I'm getting this tire put on, and he was watching me. Didn't say anything, and I got my bike all together. Well, a couple of the guys there were giving me a hand. It was a real tight tire,
Hmm.
and then I get it all done, and my mother was there volunteering also, and he walks up to me and my mom, and he says, when do you turn 15? I said, oh, February. Well, how would you like a part time job at Wallace's Wheels? Oh my god,
Woo!
awesome! Yeah.
Let's go,
So
baby.
so I worked there from 8th grade until my senior year of high school in the summers,
That's
and then in the
awesome.
wintertime I go to the mountain and park cars at the ski resort.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah,
That's so
yeah,
great. I just love it. I love it. There's always, I shouldn't say always, there's usually somebody that they take a shine to you. I don't know if this guy was that guy for you, but like there's usually for most of us, there's somebody who sees something in you that you didn't know was there and is like, hey man, you want to sweep up, or hey man, you how would you like to do this or that? And um, if we can take advantage of that as young guys, there's it's good for us. It's really good for us. Um,
yeah. No, I was on cloud nine. I couldn't believe it because it hadn't crossed my mind. No, the guys that I idolize work there,
mm,
and it's like, what? Really? You think I'm
yeah,
good enough to work here? This is incredible,
right,
and
right.
I learned a
That's a,
lot.
did you? Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's from turning wrenches to dealing with customers because
Mm,
I went in there. The mechanics are also salesmen, you know. So
really? Okay.
I'm selling BMX bikes, mountain bikes, road bikes, snowboards, snowshoes, kayaks,
Hmm. Hmm.
and we repaired kerosene heaters. No, it was all stuff like yeah.
Of course
It
you
was
did. Yeah.
it was a thing that he had done since the '60s
Hmm.
and was known for it. So he taught us how to do it.
That's awesome.
Um,
That's awesome.
yeah, so I learned a ton.
Mhm. That's
You know that
another. That's another really interesting aspect of skiing, snowboarding, skateboarding, BMX, like those individual sort of more extreme sports. Inline skating, like you're a 14-year-old kid, 15-year-old kid, and you're standing next to 20-year-old guy. Like they're like giants to you. And then
mm-hmm.
there's little kids, there's 12-year-old Groms who are pushing around in the park or, out on the trail or whatever. Uh, and you're like, maybe they're not the best example, but like you're able to see something ahead of you that isn't just a an overweight coach telling you to run faster. It's like a
Mm-hmm.
guy doing the same thing as you, but well beyond what you're capable of. And they
Absolutely.
become these influences in your life, these idols in a way. You're like, dude, yeah, there's the guy that you see in the magazine, but then there's Bill. He works at the bike shop, and I know he can. There was, I'll say, the skate shop I went to. There was this guy. He could literally ollie over the hood of a car in a parking lot from flat, and I'm
Yeah.
like, bro, this guy is better than anybody in a magazine. But he works at the skate shop I go to, and I know him personally, and man, that's awesome. And some of them were bad influence. Like some of them were like, they're drinking and doing drugs or whatever. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like they showed you, and yeah, you were just in their orbit, in their world. You got to see something that I don't think a lot of kids who play baseball get to see necessarily. Um, and they don't get that interaction across generations. And then you had a guy who owned the shop, who was a teacher, who was there talking to you and saying hello and saying, hey, try this or move this over there or do this for me. That's huge. And that is teaching you lessons at 14, 15, 16, 17 that you don't get just playing soccer. It just doesn't happen.
Right.
So yeah. So how was the bike shop? Like you learned, you just said you learned all kinds of lessons. What are some of the things that you gleaned from 4 years in a bike shop?
Hmm. Oh, really dealing with the general public was a
Mm.
big thing. Turning wrenches, the bicycles aren't all that complicated. You learn how, like I learned how to pack bearings. That's something that's still useful today. But bikes are fairly simple. You learn how to put them together. You can diagnose them fairly easily. Um, but dealing with customers, I was scared doing that. Even answering the phone, it was scary. And by the time I was done there, I was a pro at it. I'm selling people road bikes. My first year there, what's the difference between this one and that one? Well, that one's blue and that one's red, and otherwise, I have no idea. Uh, to
Right,
really being
right.
able to talk to people, and people come in with problems. And I remember one woman came in fuming, and I was able to talk her off a ledge, and ended up selling her a bunch of stuff by the time she left. Um, so
That's a
that was
good
probably
lesson right
the
there.
yeah,
That's a great lesson. Like
yeah,
you
defuse and
have,
upsell.
yeah, you have the power in no uncertain terms. You as a salesperson, as someone in sales or whatever, as the mechanic, as the expert in the situation, you have the power to either diffuse the situation and make it better, or aggravate the situation and make it worse. You can control that by how you work, by how you respond to
Right,
people. I mean, again, that's you. Like life isn't happening to you in that sense of the word. Like life isn't beating you up there. You are influencing people one way or the other. And in the end, that resolution, she bought a bunch of stuff. How
yeah,
great is that? Like perfect. She didn't just yell at you and throw
right,
a hammer at your head or throw the French fries back in your face like they do at McDonald's.
yeah,
When you work in a corporate sort of production environment, there is no recourse. You don't have a voice. You don't have autonomy. But in your environment as a kid, you learned, no uncertain terms, man, Scotty, you learned that you have a voice. You have power.
mhm.
You're capable. And they trusted you with stuff. What were they trusting a 16? What did that road bike cost? 6 grand, 4 grand? Like,
Oh yeah, some of them with thousands of dollars. Yeah,
yeah,
for sure.
yeah, and they're trusting a 17-year-old kid to not only sell a person that, but to collect the money to do the
Hmm.
service. Like those bikes, I know for a fact, cost more than my first car.
Yeah.
And they were like, "Hey, 16-year-old Scott, have a good day. You got stuff to do back there. Make sure it runs when
And
it gets out of here."
also represent the
So,
name of the company. That was on us to portray their company in a way that they wanted.
So here we are. We're cruising through your childhood. You're thinking, I want to be a machinist, and then you decide, nah, I think I'm going to go to automotive. Uh,
Yes.
how'd that shake out?
So I went to Toyota school in New Hampshire.
Okay.
Uh, yeah, it was. There's a school about an hour from me that does. They have an automotive program with a focus in Ford. They call it the Ford Asset Program. I did the same type of thing at New Hampshire Community Technical College. It was called the T10, the Toyota Technical Education Network,
Huh.
where uh, during all the theory classes, you had the Toyota group and then the all makes group, and we all had theory together. But the only difference was when we went out into the shop, my group only worked on Toyotas because I'm
Hmm.
a Toyota guy. My neighbor's from Tokyo, and he owns a
Nice.
garage. Yeah, Toshio Hashimoto. He owns a
Right on.
shop, and he got my father into Toyotas years ago, and then I got hooked on them, and it's been a thing ever since. So I want to go to school for Toyota, and I moved down to Hampton Beach,
Can I
and
interrupt you for a
went.
second? Yeah.
Yes,
So why is there a Toyota school in Maine where you are? Is there a reason for that?
it's in
Like,
New
is there a,
Hampshire, but yeah, I'm
oh, okay. So it's in New Hampshire. Why is there a Toyota focused school there?
I couldn't tell you. I
Oh,
really don't know.
is it like partnered with Toyota, or is
Yeah,
it
they're an actual like a factory training facility.
really?
Yeah, and so what I did was
So
I was in
interesting.
study hall and I went on the computer and I just looked up Toyota College or something like that. I'm
Internet.
thinking I'm gonna yeah I thought I have to go to California or
Yeah.
something,
So would I.
and
Yeah.
it popped up in New Hampshire. I said, "You got to be kidding me! It's 2.5 hours from my house. This is incredible."
That is.
So I looked into it. My folks and I went down for a tour, liked it, got signed up, got it accepted, and I spent my 2 years there. Yeah. Part of the program was in between your first and second year, you had to do a co-op at a dealership. It counted for I forget how many credits, but you had to do it 16 weeks. And I went to I won't say the shop name because I hated it, but I went to the shop. They had never taken on a co-op kid before. They never even heard of the
Okay.
program.
Okay.
But we told them about it. They agreed to sponsor me,
Hmm.
and I went and worked there. And you're supposed to be teamed up with a master tech, work right out of their toolbox, work on jobs with them. They
Hmm.
get an incentive to work with a student,
Yeah.
and
It's
you
going to slow
really
them down.
get right, and you get paid flat rate. So if you get slowed down, that's coming
Yeah.
out of your
Gross.
pocket.
Yeah.
So they had a deal where they made it enticing for a master tech to want to do it.
Hmm.
Well, they didn't do that. They gave me my own cup. They gave me 2 bays all to myself and just used me as cheap labor for the whole summer. So I
Oh,
did a lot of. And I have no problem starting at the bottom,
right.
but I wasn't a new employee. I was a student,
Hmm.
co-op student that they agreed to take on. So that
Hmm.
really wasn't how it was supposed to go. And I was so
Right.
discouraged and I hated it. And I said, I'm going to go back to school and finish because I started, but this isn't what I want to do.
Right.
I said, well, I'm going to go be a truck driver.
Oh
So
boy.
yeah, because I got my CDL when I was in high school. I got my Class A when I was a sophomore in high school.
Right
Through
on.
that tech school I went to, I got that cost me $20 to update my license. Otherwise, it was
It's
free.
not like that anymore.
No, no, it was incredible. Well, there were guys in the class. I think if I paid for it, it was $3,000 at the time.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I got high school credit for doing it.
That's so
And
freaking awesome.
shameless self promotion. I won the 2005 Maine Truck Driving Rodeo for Class B.
You're a born winner.
Yeah, I've won 2 things in my life, and that
Yeah.
and that was it.
You won the lottery twice.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
awesome.
But yeah, so I went back to school, finished up, knew I was done before I even went back, so I didn't put a lot of effort into it, regrettably. But I got through. I passed everything, and once I was done, I kissed it goodbye, and I
Hmm.
went and got a truck driving job.
Interesting.
And that became very clear very quickly that that wasn't what I wanted to do.
No.
Then had another job after that, working as a mechanic's helper at a bus company.
Okay.
Did that for 9 months, and then there's a machine shop nearby that does a scholarship program. Every year they take on a handful of kids, they put through school,
Okay.
and you sign a contract and you go work for them. And they love people that went to that tech school that I went to.
Okay.
They had, half the crew came from my
Yeah,
area.
because they would have had at least a base understanding of certain things that probably speeds up their process to getting you on board.
Yeah, well, the instructor at that school used to work at this shop,
Okay.
and he's very highly respected, and he put out a lot of talented young machinists.
Nice.
So I said, you know what? A bunch of my friends had gone through the scholarship program and did well, and they loved it. And I remember I was over at my buddy's apartment, and he was there with a bunch of guys that were in school with him, and I'm just hearing the way they're talking about machining, and I'm just like, I have no idea what they're saying, but I love it. I got to get in on this. And I hated what I was doing. I just kept making lateral moves. I wasn't really getting ahead. I wasn't happy with, and I don't like to bounce from job to job to job. That's not, I don't, it's not a good look, and that's not what I want to do.
Right.
So I said, you know what? I'm going to put in for that scholarship. And this sounds like this might be an actual career. So I did. I put in for it. I got it. And I went back to school. In 2010, I graduated with my second associate's in applied science degree. And I worked at that machine shop for 11 years.
That's respectable.
Yeah, and I learned a ton.
Yeah.
Like I had to leave because I wasn't making any money. And then there ended up being an opening on maintenance at the paper mill in town. And so I went through, it took, what, 4 months between applying and doing all the testing to get into the mill. But I got in, and it was a $13 an hour raise overnight.
That was big.
Yeah, and it cut my commute in half.
Nice. Even better. Yeah. Even better.
And so I had been doing my metalwork on the side since 2013. I didn't even mention that. I started out blacksmithing, and then that turned into...
What got you into blacksmithing? What got you into that? Because that's not welding. It's
right.
It's different. So
yeah, going to the fair, my first stop would always be the blacksmith shop. I just found it fascinating. Did a little bit in high school. I took metal trades, not at the tech school, but actually at the high school. It was just a very basic, we made a screwdriver and a toolbox, and we did a little bit of...
Slick.
Yeah, it was cool. They had a break, so just some sheet metal work.
Yeah.
But we did a little bit of blacksmithing. Yeah, I'm glad I did it. Then, and when I was in Toyota school, I took welding for the artist. It was an elective I had to have. So I was like, oh, welding for the artist, I'll take that. And the guy brought in, the class was kind of a joke, but they had a guy come into a blacksmithing demo, and we got to try that. And I made a tire lever for taking tires off my dirt bike.
Perfect.
So this is cool. So that going to the fairs, I always like to watch a smithy. And then YouTube comes around, and I was watching, if I remember right, it was sheet metal fabrication videos. I like to watch people make body panels. And it came up with you may be interested in this. And the next video, it was how to make a forge from a brake drum.
Nice.
So I watched it, and I was like, well, my parents had gotten me a little 110 MIG welder for a high school graduation gift.
Right on.
And we had a scrapyard not far away. My parents were home visiting for 4th of July. So my father and I hopped in the truck and went to the scrapyard and got a brake drum. And I had a little bit of core pipe from the paper mill that my father had sitting around since the 80s. So I hacked it up, glued it together, put a hair dryer in one end of it, and we made a coal forge.
Nice.
Yeah, I had a piece of railroad track and made a little knife out of a railroad spike. And so, this is neat. And then one thing led to another. I ended up with a forge and blowers, and I joined the Western Maine Blacksmith Association. I was doing demos with them all the time. and I was working nights at the time, so I'd light the forge up in the morning before work every day and
Hmm.
just hammer stuff out.
Yeah.
Well, I ended up people caught onto it and were buying things. I did an event for a friend of mine. Uh, she did it. It was called the Art Walk. There's a walking path in town. They had artists and vendors set up on,
Hmm.
and people just walk the path and go visit each place. And well, she didn't have a lot of vendors sign up, so she asked me if I'd do it, and I did, and I sold almost everything I had. And people are
Outstanding.
saying, "Yeah," saying, "Well, you have a business card." I said, "Well, no." At the time, I had been doing it for 3 weeks.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I didn't know how to do much, but so I ended up making business cards, and I made a few things that people liked, a lot of candle holders and metal
Of course.
flowers. And
Yep.
then there was a guy at the machine shop that he came up to me one day and said, "Can you make me a floor grate for
Hmm.
cut a hole in his floor and wanted to let heat come up from the basement?"
Hmm.
And so that's not really a blacksmithing job. That's more of a fabrication job. Well, I'll give it a try. I spent way too much time making this thing. I warped the snot out of it, and
Of
I'm
course.
slicing it and clamping it down and re-welding it to try to get it to sit flat. I made $40. Well, I charged him $40. I probably lost
Right.
100.
Yep. You did. Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
but it was. I said I like this. I'm not huffing smoke, and I'm not. I don't have to deal with the coal, and
Right.
this is neat. And it just went from there. I ended up, I started getting more tools. I got a better welder. Next thing you know, I have a plasma table, and it
Okay.
seemed like
Okay. Hold on a second. Hold on a second. There's a big gap right there. I had a I oh, I had a 110 welder. I got 40 hours into something that costs, $40, and now I have a CNC plasma table. Like what? How does it? I mean,
well,
there's
there were
a step
years
going
in
on.
between.
Yeah.
Yeah. All
Okay.
right. Well,
Okay.
we can back up. So,
Yeah.
uh,
So.
well, where the plasma table came from was I had been researching them for years, and I used to always say never. I'll never have a garage. I'll never have a plasma table. I'll never do whatever. And as more people were buying stuff from me, uh, people would send me messages on I started a Facebook business page, and I get
Mhm.
messages. Hey, here's an idea for you, or could you make this? Well, the tattered flags had just started coming out.
Oh. Oh. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I had 3 or 4 people ask me, "Hey, can you make this?" No, they wanted me to hammer it out. I said, "Well, that's
Oh.
you don't do that on a forge. That's done with
Nope.
a plasma cutter."
Yeah.
And I said, "You know what? I'm sick of turning money down. There's clearly a market for this." And I reached out to a few people. When I started getting serious about thinking about putting a down payment on one, I started reaching out, garages, farms, a couple other places. Hey, if I had this equipment, is this a service that you would utilize?
Nice.
And I got enough interest that I said, you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to put a down payment on this machine, and I'm making enough that if I never make a penny with it, I can afford the payment,
Hmm.
and I'll just have a cool tool.
Yeah.
But I think there's no way I'm not going to make money with it.
Right.
Judging by this, I mean, I was hammering stuff out of literally scrap metal, and people going nuts over it. So,
Hmm.
like, if I have this machine, it's gonna, I thought, print money.
Yeah. You'll figure out a way to make it work.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I did. I put a down payment on one and got it. And I never want to make another tattered flag as long as I live.
So, what kind of table did you get? First one.
Yeah, I don't want to say.
Oh no, was it a burn table?
No, it's a plasma cam.
Oh, good. Okay. Yeah.
I
A
love
lot of
that
people made
machine.
a lot of money off of them. There's
My
nothing
only
wrong with
regret is I didn't. My only regret is I didn't get a bigger one.
it. Yeah. I mean,
I
people
love
can
that
say all
machine.
the crap that they want to about plasma cam, and I actually am not a big fan. It has nothing to do with the table and its ability to do work. It has everything to do with the company who
Yeah,
manufactures it.
yeah.
There's no problem with the table. It's like when people make fun of. There's another company called Langmuir,
Langmeyer, I think, or Langmuir
Muir, whatever. People are like,
Crossfire.
"Oh, those things are junk." They might be, but it's a tool,
Yeah.
and a tool's only as good as the guy running it. And so, I had any experience. So I've been messing with CNC stuff since about 2008. I built my first table in 2008, and I built a bunch of custom ones for myself. I currently
Mm-hmm.
run a custom table. I fixed,
Cool.
repaired, installed CNC equipment for multiple manufacturers. It's something that I actually really like. And there's a local fella here, and he had purchased. This is going back many years, and he had purchased a top of the line table from Torchmate back when it was actually owned by a person and not Lincoln. And
Mm-hmm.
back when you could like to give myself away how old I am. This is back when they sponsored a forum on Pirate 4x4,
Right.
and like one day I wrote in there that, hey, this thing broke. I'm looking for one, and the owner of Torchmate emailed me and said, I put one in the mail for you. It'll be there in a couple days. Don't worry
Wow.
about it. Like, that's how it was back in the day. And
Yeah.
this fellow local to me had purchased a brand new top of the line Torchmate, and he'd had it for about a year and never. I mean, when I say local, I mean like up the road a mile. And I'm like, that's crazy. He's got a table. I
Yeah.
never hear about him. I never hear from him. And he came up to the shop one day and said, hey, could you help me out? And I said, yeah, sure, no problem. I'll come help you out. I don't care. I'll help anybody out. I don't really believe in a scarcity. Like, if you are doing work, you're taking money out of my plate. I don't really
Right.
believe
Right.
that
Right.
way. I think there's plenty of pie to go around. And if there isn't, we'll just make more. Um, and so yeah, I go to his shop, and there's literally nothing wrong with his table. I called Torchmate, and I knew some of the guys that were tech support there. And I said, hey, this is the table I'm working on. And they're like, oh, yeah, we won't talk to that guy anymore. I'm like, what? They're like, yeah, oh, yeah, we just refuse to deal with that guy anymore. He's too much of a headache for us. And so we've tried to help him, and we just won't help him. We just can't anymore. We send him everything he needs. Everything is correct on his table, and it should be working fine. But the problem isn't the table. And that's the thing. It's just a tool, man.
Yeah.
And the operator is the real problem 99% of the time. And so you can take something like a Langmuir table, a plasma cam table, even if you remember burn tables, they were
Mm-hmm.
objectively the worst table ever built.
I
I
came close
know
to
a
buying
guy.
one too.
Yeah. Oh, they had the best marketing at the time.
Yeah.
I know a fella. He's well known on Instagram. I won't say his name because he never ever shows a picture of his CNC table, but he does beautiful work for well known people. And he owns and operates a burn tables. And I'm like, bro, how do you do that? And he's like, I just make it work. That's how. I just make it work. And so, it's not the tool. It's almost never the tool.
Mhm.
A good craftsman never blames his tools. And so, yeah, you got a plasma cam. It works great. It does a job. And so, how'd that
Mm-hmm.
go for you? Okay. Are you in business for yourself, or do you still have a day job at this point?
No,
Or do
I've
you
been on my own for 3 years.
at that time you bought the plasma table?
Oh, when I bought the table, yeah, I
Yeah,
was
at the
still
table.
working somewhere
Yeah,
else.
yeah. So you were
Yeah.
working. You're machinist you were working at the paper mill.
No, I
Or
was a machinist at a CNC shop.
oh, okay. Oh, so you're like, yeah. So you're well acquainted with G code.
Oh
You
yeah.
you know the software side of it. Were you drawing at the time? Programming?
No, we had a programming department. I did a lot of editing.
Mm,
We get the program and it was on.
yes.
I was a setup machinist.
Okay. Cool.
I always like to clarify that because there's button pushers and then there's machinists.
Yes.
And yes, I was actually a trained machinist and
Okay.
did setups, and they trusted me to edit programs.
Right. All right.
But I didn't do the actual modeling or programming. They
Okay.
had a whole department for that.
Right. Right on. Right on. So that's what you're doing every day, and you're working nights. You said.
I worked nights for
On and
5
off.
years.
Oh, love it.
I had enough. I liked it for 3 years, and then after
Yeah.
that, I was looking at jobs that paid less just to get on
Get
day
off
shift
nights.
somewhere. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Night shift is for anybody who doesn't know, night shift is an entirely different animal. Um, it does something to a man.
Mm. Yeah,
and anyone
you
who's
get
worked it
used to
knows.
not sleeping because if you want to live your life at all, you have to, you're going to bed at 6, 7 o'clock in the morning.
Mhm.
You're up at 10 if you want to do anything before work
Yeah.
because there's
Yep.
no after work. You get home and straight to bed.
Crash.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I get it. I get it. I've worked nights multiple times. I actually don't mind the working at night. I kind of get a kick out of it. I sort of like the craziness of working nights, like not knowing what day of the week it is and when it is or why you're awake. Like it's just there's something weird about it that just kind of makes me click. But yeah, I can't do it forever, and I won't really. If I don't have to, I won't do it anymore. At
Yeah,
my
when you're not doing
stage.
it every day, it's a lot better. I just did on Christmas Eve. I did a 23-hour day. I worked my whole day in the shop, and then I got a call from these contractors that were working in the paper mill, and they said, "Hey, we need a machinist. Can you come down?"
Heck yeah.
Yeah, I can. And so I went down, did some machining, and then they asked if I'd help. They were installing a 6-ton electric motor. We had to place
Mm,
it and set the coupling distance and doing a laser alignment. And yeah, I'll stick around for that. So
heck
I
yeah.
ended up putting in another 10 hours. I was there until 3 o'clock in the morning. And,
Roger that. I love it.
and it
Yeah, I
was
love it.
fun. It was enjoyable, other than being cold because I didn't bring a
Right.
coat. I didn't plan on being there all night. Uh,
Exactly. You're like, oh, it'll be fine. Oh gosh,
yeah.
it's not fine.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
brutal. It was about 10
Yeah.
degrees and on a
Oh man,
non heated building.
I got
But,
it. Oh, I
yeah,
love that.
so it's not bad when you don't have to do it every day.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's not bad. But it is. I mean, for the guys that do it every day, man, and they have got 5, 6, 8, 10 years on nights, dude. That's a whole different kind of animal. And
Hmm.
much respect. I don't care if you're. I don't care if you're the janitor and you're working nights like that for that kind of time frame, buddy. You're a tough son of a gun.
Oh, yeah.
Tough or messed up, one or the other, and maybe a little both. But anyway, let's get back to your plasma table. So you're working full time. You're working part time for in your own garage shop,
Yep.
doing decorative for the most part decorative stuff. I would imagine
At the time,
uh,
yeah.
at the time. Yeah.
Yeah, a
Okay.
lot of wall hanging stuff. And I made
Wall
fire
hangers,
pits. And,
fire pits. Yep. So you get the CNC table. How does that change things for you? What happens?
well, it sped everything up. It took
Mm-hmm.
me a little bit. The learning curve took a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
The literature you get with the machine was awful. They they use a lot of terms that they don't define.
Mm-hmm.
So, like the orthogonal snap. Well, what's orthogonal snap mean?
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
I ended up finding a YouTube video of this guy did, and he's like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna use ortho. That just means it snaps in 45-degree increments." Oh,
Duh.
oh, all
Yeah.
right. Well, if they would have
Thank
told
you,
me
Mr.
that, I would.
YouTube.
Oh
Man.
yeah, I
Oh,
learned how to run that machine on YouTube. I learned most of what I do on YouTube actually.
yeah. Shh.
Hey, whatever.
Hey, man, I'm telling you right now, the information's there. If it's just a tool, if you want to learn how to use it, you can go and learn how to use information. There
Yep.
is nothing, absolutely nothing that you can't learn right now. There's
Right.
no barrier. You're like, well, I don't have money to go to school. It doesn't matter. You can learn it now. You can get on your phone and you can figure it out. All you need is time, time,
That's how I got into the
patience.
paper mill.
Yeah.
I had to take I had to take a written test and a hands-on test to get into the
Mm-hmm.
paper mill, doing a job I'd never done before.
Mm-hmm.
And I found tons of YouTube videos on being a millwright,
Mm,
how
oh,
to set impeller clearance, how to do laser alignments, how pumps work,
mm-hmm.
and research, and talking to people that work there.
Mm-hmm.
And I passed both tests with flying colors.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, even stuff I know how to do, I'll look up on YouTube. Just, if I'm doing a brake job on a car that I haven't worked on. Well, I've done brake jobs, but hey, why not watch a 5-minute video and see if there's some trick or something different? Why
Yeah.
not?
Yeah. And so we'll get into this a little bit later, just about qualities that matter and things that are important. But put this one in the back of your cap. Being teachable is of utmost importance if you want to be
Hmm.
successful. You are not too proud to receive correction or help, or to find the information on your own that you don't know. Um, I had my friend's a mechanic, great friend of mine, and he went to tech school to be a mechanic. He's been a mechanic for a long time, and he's like, dude, I'm always learning. And he has a guy come to his shop, has a Dodge 2500 3/4 ton truck. The guy's like, oh, I put my own brakes on. I do all this stuff. There's something wrong with this truck. There's something wrong with this truck. And my mechanic friend, he goes, did you put the calipers on upside down? The guy's like, there's no way. There's no way. He's like, dude, just go home and check. The guy's like, no, there's something wrong with those brakes. There's something wrong with the rear end. You put it in the shop, and he left. My friend, the mechanic, puts it up on the lift, looks, they're both on upside down.
The bleeders are facing down.
The leaders are facing the wrong way. The guy was too proud to just say, yeah, I might have made a mistake. He was too proud to watch a YouTube video. And so my friend, the mechanic, charged him full price to redo everything that he just did. Flip the brake calipers and send it out the road. And when the guy comes in, he's like, whoa, what was it? Your brake calipers were upside down. Bleeder was on the wrong side. Whoa, blah, blah, blah. Dude, you're just too proud to gain any new information. You're too proud to just say, I didn't know that. Nope, it had to be somebody else's fault. It's ego. Ego is going to kill you in this, especially in the trades. Man, there's always something new. And there's always something, maybe it's not even new. Maybe it's just you've never experienced it before. Like, do you know how every single brake caliper works on every piece of equipment that's ever been built? No, some you can press in, some you have to turn in.
Right.
Like, dude, I don't know that. And so if my wife wants an Audi and I want to put brakes on it, guess what? I got to go watch a YouTube video. Like, it's okay, man. You're not better or more cool or tougher because you just hit it with a hammer, right. Break your clamp. And so, and being like a millwright, like there's so much, like I do a lot of millwright type work.
Love millwright work.
Yeah, it's my favorite thing in the world because there's always something new. Like I put tons of motors and I put tons of gearboxes up. Never put this one up, like never put it in this spot, never figured out how to do it this way. Like, there's just so many details and charts and little things you can read and like specs and like how much oil do you put in based on how the gearbox is angled. And dude, it's so awesome because you're always learning something. You never have it all figured out. And having the humility to say, yeah, I don't know. Nobody cares.
Yeah, absolutely not. I never hesitated to say I don't know something. And when I worked in that mill, there were guys that had been there for 30, 40 years. And they were a wealth of knowledge.
Those old guys are the best.
Yeah, and some of them had some not so great information, but I just figured just listen to everything, and talk to a couple people too. I might ask 2 or 3 guys the same question, not in front of each other, but, and you take 3 answers and then think about it, mull it over, and what makes the most sense. And I worked there for 2 years and 2 months, and had I not worked there, I don't think I would be successful doing what I'm doing now.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, opened me up to a whole world of industrial work. There's actually a millwright company that I work with every now and again. They're the ones that called me in the other night to the mill. They were using me as a subcontractor, but occasionally I do work with them as an employee. And it's unbelievable. It's something to learn every day.
Yeah.
I'm constantly asking questions, and a lot of them old guys like to talk. They like to show off a little bit about what they know. So, hey, bring it. I'll suck it all up.
I'll take it all. I'll take it all. There's always something new. There's always something old. That's something that I've found is I used to do a lot of work around sawmills, and there's always an older piece of equipment that only one guy knows anything about, right? And it's like, bro, I don't know. Dude, let's learn. Like, I want to learn that.
Yeah.
Like being curious and being teachable is almost a superpower in this world. And I think as people age out of the trades, which is happening at an alarming rate, Those people who can stay curious and stay willing to learn are going to be so successful. They're
Oh yeah.
actually going to be the ones who keep the world moving,
Mm-hmm.
because as the old graybeards leave, that are 60, 70 years old, as they retire, they're taking with them so much information, and we'll never get it back until we do it on our own.
Right.
And so unless you have those guys in your phone ready to call them up in 5 years, hopefully they'll answer your phone call from Florida. Like, hopefully they don't die.
Right.
But the only other way is to just be curious, just
Mm-hmm.
to learn, and not to bring it all the way back to the beginning, but how do you learn how to do BMX bike trick?
Trial and error. Talk to
Yeah,
people. Watch other guys do it.
weird that you're
Yeah.
now capable of doing that and making a living at it. Like,
Yeah.
I did industrial maintenance for a while for a company, and I loved it. It was cool. There's always something new. They had like a press brake from Tajikistan that they bought at an auction, and the whole thing was in Russian. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so cool, And they had a CNC router table that came from a failed bankrupt company in Canada, and it had outdated electronics. And then they had a shear that they bought from a guy in North Carolina that, it doesn't have any literature involved with it. It just has a cabinet full of wires, and like the tags are ripped off of it. And I'm just like, oh, yeah, and it was, and they always ask me, the one owner always asks me, like, how do you know how to do that? And I'm like, I don't know how to do anything. I know who to call. I know how to listen, and I have a half decent memory that hasn't been concussed out of me by smashing my head into the ground a million times. Like, I just know how to make a phone call. I will make a phone call to the right guy, no matter how long it takes.
Mhm.
They had a Graco spray machine, like a foam machine that they ran, and I didn't know how to fix it. But guess what? After 6 months of it breaking down, I knew exactly who to call, and exactly where to get parts for it, and exactly how to take it apart, and exactly how to put it back together. I'd have the guy on speakerphone, and I'd have the machine in my hands, and I'd be like,
Mhm.
okay, I just pulled this seal out and it looks like this. What do you think? And he'd be like, well, you should change this. And, oh, turn this back this way. And oh, what color is that seal? It's brown. He's like, that's your problem. It's not the right kind of material for you need a butyl, and that's going to be black. And, oh, cool. If you run this chemical through this machine, you need to change the seals. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Change the seals. The boys would come in the morning and spray. Wouldn't you know it? It's a miracle. It's not a miracle. I just wasn't too proud to sell someone I didn't know what I was doing.
Right.
And again, I think I learned that a lot of that I learned from not knowing how to do certain tricks and having to ask a guy, like, what's the secret? Like, oh, and he shows you. He just
Mhm.
shows it to you, and you're like, oh, okay, let me try. And I don't know. There's so many good little nuggets in there. But back to your plasma table. So you buy this plasma table. How does that change your trajectory? Like, what moves? Does that move you forward? Does it move you back? Do you have struggles with it? Like, what's going on with that?
It definitely accelerated everything. Like I said, the learning curve was a little tough at first,
Mm-hmm.
but the, I remember sitting there being frustrated, but just going, I can't quit. I've got so much invested in this. Failure is not an option. It's just not. Other people can do it. I can do it.
It's possible.
I just have to figure this out. And the problems became fewer and fewer. I found out where to find help,
Yep.
where to look. And then as I got more comfortable with it, I kind of be like, well, geez, I wonder if this would work. And I try it. Hey, well, that does work. And then I'm figuring things out on my own just intuitively.
Yeah.
And so that got me into the metal art
Mm-hmm.
area. And most of my business was actually at the machine shop. Every day when I was going in, I'm bringing a flag or a sign or something to sell to my coworkers.
That's awesome.
It got to the point I got spoken to once about it.
Your boss is like, bro.
Yeah, no, he's like, man, I'm super impressed that you do this. That you're working 7 days a week, and I couldn't do it. but remember why you're here. All right, all right, all right. I understand.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
everyone would want to come up to me and talk about projects, and I'd
Hmm.
have to be like, "All right, hey, hit me up after work.
Yeah. But
I got to focus on what I'm doing."
you were a valuable employee, and I do want to like stop there for a second, because a lot of people think that like being self-employed is the only way to be successful. Being self-employed is the goal. Like if you're in the trades, your end state should be I own my own business. And that may be true for some people. I don't think it's true for everybody. I think there's probably 4% of people who ought to be owning their own business in this world. Everybody else needs to be an employee. Sorry, like I hate to burst everybody's bubble. Being self-employed sucks. It's harder than you think. It takes longer than you think. It costs more than you think. And most people are not designed mentally, physically, or spiritually to be in business for themselves. They cannot take 99% rejection with no promise of ever being successful, ever. They
Mm-hmm.
just can't handle it. So, um, but there is so much in the trades, there's so much flexibility for people. So you're working at a machine shop. If you do your job every day, you go to work, you're a little bit proactive, you say, hey man, this is what I'm doing, hey, how can I help, how can I do better, they're going to compensate you well to work there, right? You could make a living doing that. And then on the side, you can have your own little side gig. If you wanted to, you could still just be making signs, doing a couple small projects on the weekends, and you'd be making extra money. You could build your race bike. You could buy that new KTM. Hopefully they don't go bankrupt and there's no more KTMs, but I guess they probably will. So anyway, like you could do all that stuff. And your boss, instead of saying you're fired, get out, he'll say, hey man, just be careful. Like, make sure you know which side of the bread your butter's on, and you go back to work. Okay, cool. If you were a suckbag employee who was late every other day, he'd be like, "Get out,
Yeah.
just get out, and I'll find someone else to do your job, and you can go do your little metal art somewhere else, bud." You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And so, like, there is a lot of benefit to actually just going to work, showing up, and doing a good job
Mm-hmm.
consistently. You can grow that into something else. You can be, and it's not being a suck up. Like, it's not being a brown noser. It's just being a decent human being in
Right.
some meaningful way at work. And so, yeah, that's awesome that you had a boss who said, be careful, pal.
No, he
Remember.
was actually a customer.
Oh, and he was a customer.
He was.
Perfect.
Yeah.
That's so great. I love it, man. I love it. So
Yeah.
you're there, you're grinding away 7 days a week, and then how's that like shake
So,
out?
yeah, and I didn't plan on doing it as a business. I didn't think that it it would give me enough income to be able to do it. I wasn't really. It wasn't my goal.
Okay.
I just I wasn't partying or I wasn't riding bikes anymore, and I was big into off road for a long time, and I
Okay.
got so busy I wasn't doing that anymore. It just that was my hobby, was making stuff,
Right.
and it wasn't until, well, actually, it was really when I went to the mill. I got to the point where I wanted out of the machine shop. It just wasn't paying, and they were
Okay.
messing with our schedules all the time, and it was just getting to the point where I needed to move on.
Okay.
Um, I went to the mill and actually closed my business. I thought I made an announcement on my Facebook page, like, "Hey, I'm going to focus
Yeah.
on this new job.
Yep.
Making good money now, and uh, I wouldn't mind having the weekends off." So, thanks for all the support, but I'm going to shut it down. And that lasted like a week, maybe two. And I said, I said, well, I'll just make the select jobs that I want to do. That I'll take those on. No more making $5 Sasquatch bottle openers. I'm over that.
Perfect.
Like, so I'm not going to do anything. But if somebody wants a 10-foot sign, well, yeah, I could do that. And,
Hmm. Hmm.
well, next thing you know, my coworkers at the mill are my customers,
Ah.
and it picked right back up. But
Mm.
I did shake off that small stuff that I didn't want to do anymore.
Right.
So that was kind of a necessary thing to happen.
Hmm.
And then I said, you know what? At the time I had like 7 years left on my mortgage.
Okay.
And I said, I'm going to work here until my house is paid for, and then I might consider going off on my own.
Mm.
And at this point too, I had added machines to my shop. I got my own machine shop now.
Oh,
Just
okay.
yeah, some old lathe mill, Bridgeport surface grinder, a
Mm-hmm.
couple other machines.
Mm-hmm.
So I had variety, and I was getting repair work and doing some more industrial type stuff, or working on heavy equipment. And
Right
so
on.
it was kind of like, all right, this is the type of work that people do for a living.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, when the mortgage is paid off, and then long story short, I got kind of ticked off with the mill and said, "Screw this! I'm going to make the jump." My wife supported it,
Mm-hmm.
and
What
she
year
she
was this?
this was 2019. No,
2019.
I'm sorry. No, I started the mill in 2019.
Okay.
It was 21. It was July 26, 2021 was my first day full time
Okay. All
on
right.
my own.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll never
Ha-
forget that date.
yeah, that's a great date, and I love it. That's cool. Like,
Yeah, and my first
how
job.
how did I don't want to like bring up bad memories or anything, but so you started a job in 2019. You were working there during COVID. Did
Yeah.
COVID have anything to do with your frustrations, or was it like, nah, no factor? It's just a factory job, whatever, who cares? Like, did COVID like push you towards something, or like something happened? So what happened in that from 2019 to 2021 that you're like, I'm out, calling it?
Well, I got moved around a bunch. They had a deal where they wanted the new hires to bounce around to all the different areas.
Mm-hmm.
And all right, cool. I get that. That's fine. But I'm the only one there moving around out of
Mm-hmm.
the handful of us that came in. So
Mm-hmm.
all right, whatever. It made sense. One guy was an ace millwright. Another guy was a great welder. They kept him in the utilities area,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm the one that knew the least because I hadn't done it before.
Ah,
So I'm bouncing around. That's fine. I got put on a bunch of garbage work, but I'm the new guy. That's expected. And I got put in the worst area in the whole mill, the steam plant. Nobody wanted to work in the steam plant. That's where the big boilers are. It's hot. It's dirty. It's just miserable.
mm.
And I ended up there. All right, I got to pay my dues. Well, then an opening popped up in an area I wanted to work in, so I put in for it, got out of the steam plant, and worked in this awesome area. And I was in on a shutdown one time, but we were in on a Saturday. There was a machine that was down, and it's a bale press, and there's just this big hydraulic cylinder that squishes the pulp bales, and they needed it mic'd. So hey, you're a machinist, go get the mics and measure this. So I did,
Mm-hmm.
and they had me reverse engineer a seal and make a blueprint. Well, I did that, and the maintenance manager was impressed by it and asked me if I'd like to go down to the roll repair area because they need a millwright that understands precision bearing fits and
Okay.
can measure shafts and stuff like that. And I didn't really want to, but I was like, oh, I don't want to be the guy that turns down an opportunity.
True.
So I took it and hated it. I went from
Oh,
an area that was great. I loved it. It was me and one other guy. Hydraulics and pneumatics was like our main thing, and I'm learning all about that. And it was just had ownership of the area. I
mm.
got I got a good rapport with the operators. Every morning I'd stop in first thing before I even went to my shack where my tools were. Hey, how's everything running? You guys need anything? So they had never had that. They loved it,
Sure.
and I walked away from it. And so I got into roll repair, hated it. Asked the maintenance manager. I said, "Hey man, this isn't really working out. I don't like it down here. Is there any way I can go back to my old job?" I wrote him an email. He never even replies to me. And I asked him. I said, "Can we keep this between us until I know what my options are?"
Mm-hmm.
Well, I come into work the next day and everybody knows about it.
Son of a gun.
Yeah. So I was like, "Well, that's cute." And he never replied to me.
Mm.
He just sent me back to the steam plant.
Oh, not
So
what
he,
you were hoping for.
right, right,
uh,
and that was kind of like, "Well, you're not going to do what we want. Well, here's your punishment."
yeah.
And it's like, really, this is the kind of games I don't want to be playing. And
Yeah.
and not that I was too good to work in the steam plant, no, but I didn't like it there. The heat killed me.
Mm-hmm.
That was the biggest thing. Was just the heat. Some guys can take it. I can't work in the 130 degree temperatures with my long
Yeah.
sleeves, my hard hat, my COVID mask, my gloves. Oh, it was awful.
Yeah, that's it.
And I said, you know what?
That's what
Maybe
it
I'm
is.
not going to wait till the mortgage is paid. Maybe I'm going to make the jump now.
There you go.
I was
There you go.
busy as could be, so I did it. And no sooner did I put my notice in, and I made an announcement on my Facebook page that I was going full time, and work just started flooding in. It hasn't stopped since.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's so great. I mean,
So,
those decision points, those spots in your life where, okay, the boat is getting closer to this dock. I got to jump off someday. Like
mm-hmm.
eventually, like there's a point where you got to take that step. You have to. And it could be for anything. It could be, hey, I've been doing this job for 10 years and I have an opportunity to go somewhere else at another
Yeah.
job. Or I'm in this company and they've been after me to be into management but I love being a technician. And so do I either go that way or not? Like those points in your life are so important. And man, like the riskier they are, like the riskier decision is a lot of times just the better one. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's objectively better to take that risk. It's not better to stay. Um, it's just not. It's not. And everybody has a different risk tolerance. Like some people could never have done what you did because they could not do it with the risk of their mortgage over their head. They're just like,
Right.
nope, that's not possible. There's no way I'm going to do it. And other people, they're like, Phew, I would have done it 7 months ago, because they
Right.
could care less. They're like, I'll quit and sell my truck if I have to,
Right.
but a lot of people, they find themselves in that spot where they're faced with that decision and they don't know what to do. What would your advice to people in that spot where they got to make a decision to jump out of this job into self-employment or out of this spot into a different spot? What's your advice for them? Like what helped you make that decision?
What I learned is don't wait for that perfect time because
Mm,
it's not going to happen. If you're really on the fence about it, there's not going to be that, this is the time. You know what I mean? Where it all, there's not going to be the time where it makes perfect sense and there's no risk. Because I was waiting for that. I played the scenario out in my head a million different ways, and none of them, no scenario came without risk.
yeah.
All you could do is mitigate the risk as much as you can. And in my case, COVID actually helped because everybody was hiring. So I
Mm,
said, if I make this jump and I run my business right into the ground, anybody will hire me. I can go to Chimbro, Bancroft. The machine shop would take me back. If I applied there Monday morning, I'd be working there Monday afternoon. I
right.
left on good terms. They can't find people,
Mm,
uh, and I'm not too proud to do anything. So it's like I'm never going to lose the house. My family isn't going to go hungry. I could go drive a truck again if I had to.
right.
Not that I can work on cars.
Not that I
So
want to.
not that I want to,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
if I'm so mitigate your risk as much as you can,
Mm,
and don't wait for the perfect moment because it's not going to come. You're going to have to make an uncomfortable decision.
mm, yeah.
And when you
That
do it, don't look back. Own it.
mhm,
That's what my wife always told me. She said, "You make it. Whatever decision you make, own it."
mhm, mhm.
And I did, and it worked out.
Yeah. That last bit about just making the decision and being 100% in, I struggled with that at the beginning. I when I started the business back in '08 ish. Um, man, I had some bad stuff happen, like really bad stuff happen to me. Lost a lot of money,
Mm,
um, and I got really gun shy. And it took me 10 years to get over it. That's how bad
really?
it was. Yeah, and not a lot of people know about like some of the stuff that happened to me, but it was bad, and it took me about 10 years to get over it. And once I did get over it, and I was 100% committed again. Um, Boy, I wish I would have done it sooner.
Yeah.
I wish I would have been like the 1 foot in, 1 foot out kind of situation. It did not serve me. I thought I was being safe, but it really actually hurt me.
Yeah.
Like thinking, oh, there's a safe way to do this. There's an easier way to do this. It wasn't. It wasn't, and it hurt. And what that's a lesson I learned actually through COVID and whatever. Is like, man, I like jumped in whole hog, and I'm like, oh, yeah, that's how it's supposed to be. It's much better. Like
Yeah.
I'm done looking back. I'm only looking ahead at where I want to get to, and I'm not gonna. I actually had to say out loud, I'm never gonna work for someone again.
Yeah.
That's it. I had to say that. Now that's a different like that's different than what everyone needs to say. Like there should be that spot in the back of your head where like, listen, if my kids need better health insurance, or if my house is about to get foreclosed on, guess what? I'm going to go work at the gas station if I have to.
Right.
That's the real truth. But I had to be committed in my mind.
Yeah.
I'm going this way. Period.
Yep.
No looking back. And so that's an awesome lesson to learn in there that you can't learn until you jump.
Right.
Like there's no way to learn it unless you do it.
Yeah. Making that decision was one of the scariest things I've ever done,
Yeah.
because I'm making good pay, a good salary, 15 minutes from home at a job that took me 4 months to get.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm ready to just walk away from it. Like, that's a job people don't quit. Most of the guys that they get that job, they work there till retirement.
Yep.
And I broke the mold.
Yeah. It's scary, but so you did something, and there's people write books about what you did, but they're not for people like us. They're for white collar guys. And so I read a lot of books and about leadership, about different things. And I read this term, and it stuck with me. And it's this idea of fear casting. And for a lot of people who work white collar jobs, they've played it safe their whole life. They've gone to college. They did the right thing. It's hard for them to think about another way. And I think for blue collar guys, we've done things that like the world has told us so many times that there's just one way to do it. Like you get in with the union, or you get that golden parachute job, like at the mill or with this construction company, and that's it. You grab onto it and you hold it until you die or it dies. But this guy, he wrote this book. One of the things he talked about is fear casting. He says, if you're faced with this decision to jump into this new world of self-employment, of owning your own business, of getting a different kind of a job, moving up, moving down, whatever you got to do, if you're thinking about that, think through, and you're afraid, think through what's the worst possible case. If everything that could be wrong with it, what's going to happen? What's that going to be? Like, get all that stuff out of your head. Most people, if they do that, they'll find themselves in the same place you did. Well, I'll just go get another job.
Yeah.
Like, I'll get a job where I used to work, or I'll get a job where I've never worked before. I'll go back to driving truck. That'll be the worst case scenario. Okay, cool. How scary is that? It's not scary at all. So
Right.
quit thinking, quit planning, quit learning, get to it. Just get to it. And anyway, yeah, there's a lot to that thought, but it's pretty self-explanatory to people who need to hear it. If you're listening to this and you need to hear it, quit messing around, get to work. Period. And if you don't want to, stop. Like that's the other side of that coin, is if you're constantly thinking like, man, I'm gonna one day when I get to this point, then I'm gonna make my side hustle my full-time gig, and then if I pay this off, then if my wife gets that job as a nurse, and then we get all that insurance, well then you need to at a certain point quit your side hustle and just go to work every day, man.
Yeah.
Be a good employee. And if somebody needs you to pour concrete on a Saturday, you go help them out. You don't have to be your own boss.
Right.
But if you never decide one way or the other, you're going to beat yourself up for your whole life, and you're never going to be happy. You're never.
Yeah, it gets old. It gets old real quick.
gets old, man. It does. All right. Well, hey, there's a good spot. I've got a couple questions. The Fast Five. I stole them from another podcast called the Contracting Handbook. There's another podcast, Black Line, or it's called The Line by Black Line. This is another pretty decent podcast I listen to. He does sort of a similar thing, but basically we're at a spot where I'm just going to ask you a couple questions and give me the answer off the top of your head. I think they're interesting or funny. So what's one tool, knowing everything you know, what's one tool you can't live without?
Working alone, my pipe jacks. I've got a dozen of them, jack stand pipe jacks, whatever you want to call them. Those things have been a game changer. It's like having another employee.
Yeah. Do you use what brand do you use?
Vevor.
You got the Vevors.
I got the Vevor.
It takes 12 weeks to get them, but once they're here,
I don't pay. I haven't paid full price for any of them.
Nice. Get them on sale or what?
Amazon open box. Every one of them.
Nice.
Yeah.
So what's the cost on one of those bad boys? If you don't mind me asking.
I think the most I've paid is $50, and the cheapest one was like $29. Wow. Yeah,
I'm sold.
Yeah, I'm telling you.
Yeah, man.
They have the open box every week. They'll drop the price until someone buys it.
No kidding.
Yeah, so we keep an eye on them, and now I've got a dozen. I got some with wheels, some that are fixed, and I got them all over the shop. I build my handrails laying down sideways. I can put one of those in the middle on all the corners. I can have everything adjusted just perfectly level. Mm-hmm. It's awesome.
Yeah,
nice. For such a simple tool. I got one, and I thought one was amazing. Having 12 is it's like having another person.
Yep. One thing I like, I'm right there with you. I love those pipe jacks, pipe stands, jacks, whatever you want to call them. I don't know what the right thing is. I guess it depends on what industry you're in, what you call them. But anyway, I love them. I've got a bunch of Sumner ones that I get pretty cheap. Not that cheap, but I get pretty cheap from it's called Rig Welder Supply, and they're constant. They're always on sale. I think I've gotten them for $75. I've gotten them for $85. They're always on sale. No limit on how many you can purchase. I buy them 6 at a time. Yeah. Anyway, one thing that old guy taught me is take 4 of them. If you're working out in the field, you have just you and your truck, you and your trailer. You're working out in a field. Bring 2 pieces of pipe, 6 feet long or 8 feet long. Slide them in the bed of your truck. 2-inch pipe, 4-inch pipe, whatever you want, whatever you got scrap. You get to your job, and you have to build something big, like a set of legs to go under a conveyor. You just need a work surface. You take your 4 jacks, you put pipe across 2, put your level across them, level them up all ways, weld the pipe to your jack. Just put a tack on one jack and on one pipe and one jack on the other pipe. Tack it. You now have a huge table.
That's awesome.
And I was like, that is the simplest thing. Like, it's so simple. And someone listening to this, like, you have no idea what you're talking about. I learned that when I was 4 years old and I worked in a pipe jack factory. Well, whoop-de freaking do. I didn't. I am so mediocre at all of this stuff. Like, I am not good at anything, and everything that I've ever done has been hard. And so I've had to learn from a lot of people how to do anything and be even mildly successful. And so something like a table made of pipe out of pipe jacks that I keep in my truck, it was awesome to learn that from a 70-year-old guy on the backside of an asphalt plant. I really appreciate him for it. And dude, it makes a lot of sense. You got to lay a big, structure out. Just set your pipe jacks up, weld that pipe to it, and level them up. Perfect every time.
Yeah,
you don't need a big fixture table. And heck, if you want to get crazy, run a piece of I-beam instead of a piece of pipe or a piece of square tube. And then if you want to get even crazier, put a piece of plate over top of it. And now you have a table you can work on. Like, you got to make it happen. And so that's awesome. They're great tools. I love it. And especially if you work by yourself, like you said. Yeah. Come on, man. That's awesome. Okay, question number 2. This is a little different, but it's the what is your where have you been all my life tool. Something that you had no idea existed, and then once you got it, you're like, "Phew, oh, I'm so glad I found you."
Hmm. Oh, the my SCT, my surface conditioning tool. You ever use one of those?
Is that the drum sander
The big
that
drum
on a
sander.
7-inch grinder type deal?
Yes.
Yes, those things are awesome.
I deal with. I don't have a place to keep my steel. I work out of my garage that wasn't
Hmm.
built to be a fab shop. It was built to be a garage,
Okay, yeah.
and I'm out of room. My garage. I've got 4 inches to the property line off one corner. The backside's on my leach field, and I can't come towards the house, and I can't go forward. So I'm out of room. So
Hmm.
I get material deliveries on Mondays and Wednesdays, and like right now, I've got 6 inches of snow out there. So all my plate, all my pipe tubing gets dumped in the snow. It'll start to rust up by the time I work on it.
Yeah.
I take that SCT and she looks brand new.
So, for anyone who doesn't know, what describe this tool and how you use it?
Yeah, so it's got a pistol grip, kind of like a grinder, but instead of a grinding wheel, it's got a big horizontal drum on it that takes like a almost like a hard Scotch Brite type of material, and it spins kind of slow, but it'll strip paint, it'll clean rust off,
Mm.
and it's big and heavy, and it's kind of awkward to use. But I haven't found anything that works nearly as fast or as well cleaning up
Oh,
material.
nice. And you use it flat surfaces. You could use it sort of semi round because it's sort of soft, right? Like it's not like a
Yeah, if
grind.
you get onto a surface that wasn't flat, it would probably start to wear the shape into the pad,
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
which would work good on what you're doing.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So cool. The SCT Surface Conditioning Tool. Great.
Yes.
Gotta love it. Okay, this one is very controversial. Um, I get I get messages about this question, and it's the way I like it. Um, so we're all in a trade, and more than ever, uh, people are trying to sell us stuff. So, what is the most overrated tool, equipment, or gear out there?
Hmm.
The most overrated. It's everyone thinks it's cool, but it's worthless. It's not actually helpful. Overrated. Get
Trying to
that
think,
out of
because
here.
most of the tools I end up with do make life better.
Okay.
Uh, th-
It
this is
doesn't even
kind of
have to be a tool. It could be gear. It could be
well.
equipment. Like, yeah.
This isn't epic or anything, but what comes to mind is the uh, what do they call it? Like a grinder cup. Like a wire cup wheel, but it's a grinder. I mean, a
Okay.
grinding wheel. Have you seen those?
I mean, like a cup wheel? Like,
A
just,
cup, a cup wheel. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. It's like
Okay.
just a grinding wheel, but it's like this thick. And
Yeah.
on the
What do you
plasma page years ago, they
Oh,
were
okay.
they were pitched for removing. Oh, they're the best for removing
With
dross.
drops. Yeah.
And I bought one of those, and it sits on the shelf. That thing's been nothing but a turd. Nothing beats a 6 inch wire wheel.
Yep. Exactly. Exactly. There you go.
I
I
think that's
have
all I could come up with on the spot. But yeah,
Yeah, no
that wheel.
worries, no worries. That's fine. There are plenty of tools that get marketed and plenty of equipment. Like one that I'll, you know, more pockets on a pair of pants is not helpful. Let me just throw that out there. Okay. Like if you make pants, more isn't better for someone who works for a living. Um, it's just not. So to me, overrated would be like some company that makes specialty work pants for carpenters. Okay, cool. Like that's awesome. Get a pair of jeans, you know. Um, and especially when they cost $190.
Oh,
It's
that's
like,
nuts. That's nuts. I pay 14.99 for pants.
yeah. I currently like I'm a bit of a snob because I weld, and for me, clothing is a important thing because I'm so hard on what I wear. Like I am.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to say I'm the worst because I'm sure there's somebody else out there, but like because of the nature of our business, we're working around plants, doing millwright work, like in concrete plants and asphalt plants, in quarries, in mines, in coal, in the oil field, like all over the book, all over the map. Um, I can have a $120 hoodie and it'll be destroyed in 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Like it will. There's nothing. There is not one brand that you can. And you name the custom welding brand. I've tried it. I've destroyed them. And pants, same thing. I will destroy them. And I'm not trying to be tough. I'm not trying to be cool. It's just if you if you work on an asphalt plant on the drag chain that goes up to the top of the silos and back down, you might as well just throw your clothes out at the end of the day. There's no other way. Oh, you could wear gloves. No, you can't. Throw your pants out. Throw your shirt out. Like I keep pants and shirt in the truck, and if
Yeah.
have to go out to an asphalt plant to work on some of that stuff, I will wear my clothes. I will get out of them on the side of the like at the plant. I will strip down to my skivvies, put on new clothes, and throw
Mm-hmm.
the rest in their dumpster because I'm not bringing them home. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, I think clothing is an overrated thing. But anyway, next question number 4, real quick. What is your go-to shop jams, tunes?
Oh, my tunes are all over the place. I'm a punk rock and hardcore guy from way back.
Yes.
Uh, like today, it was Down to Nothing. I was listening to Down to Nothing most of the day. I've got playlists that I've made that I've been working on for years. That it's like 50 or 60 hours of music,
Nice, nice.
and it'll go from 6 Feet Under to Miley Cyrus to I don't know, like 90s country.
Okay,
Uh,
right on.
yeah, it's really all over the place. But if I had to pick something,
Mhm.
it's 90s, early 2000s hardcore.
There you go.
You
Gotta
know,
love
Madball, tons of
Madball.
Madball.
There you go. There you
Yeah,
go. Yep.
just went and saw Madball a couple months ago.
Right on.
Unreal show. Yeah,
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm a big hardcore guy, but I'll be honest with everybody. I don't listen to nearly any of it anymore.
really.
I listen to for a guy who doesn't drink, do drugs, or cheat on his wife. I listen to a lot of songs about drinking whiskey, doing drugs, and being divorced.
Yeah.
Like old fashioned hardcore country is where I live at this moment, and
Yeah.
I don't even. It's so bad, but
Hey, whatever. You like
yeah,
what you like.
it's just one of those funny things. All right, last question on our fast 5, which has not been very fast, but I love it anyway. Um, in your business, day to day kind of world, what's one thing that for you is an instant you're fired or total lack of respect, like loss of respect for somebody? Um,
Oh, number one, no call, no show.
yes. Oh,
100%. Yeah, I've got no use for that. I just had to fire a customer for no
for
call, no
that.
show with me. Yep.
What?
Yeah. Yeah. The guy, I let him get away with it twice.
Mm,
Uh, well,
mm.
I guess I let him get away with it once. The second time, I said no more because I was out there with bells on, waiting for his truck to show up, and he
Out
never
of
came. And
control.
I mean, this is now it's been over a month, and I still haven't heard from him. So he's
No
no
kidding.
longer.
Were
He's
you
got no
out?
place on my schedule.
Yeah, the no call, no show that is
But
100% non-negotiable for me. And
yeah, yeah,
I don't even care.
it's
Like if
just because
you're,
there's no need of it.
I'm getting real hot under the collar. I'm just gonna start ranting and raving. Yeah, man, there
Yeah.
is no need for it. And if you're an employee of mine or whatever, I don't even care. It doesn't matter. Um, if you call me an hour after you're supposed to be at work and you're like, bro, I'm in my car, I'm going 90 miles an hour down the highway, I'll be there in 42 minutes. No problem. I don't care.
Hmm.
I get it. Your kid woke up with snot on their face,
Yeah.
or you didn't wake up. I get it. Don't make excuses. Get your butt to the job.
Yeah.
That's it. Like, but if you literally no call, no show, it's noon, and I'm calling you 3 times, like, bro, where you at? And you don't answer the phone, and tomorrow that night you text me. Don't even, like, your tools are outside the shop. Don't come
Yeah,
back. I
yeah.
hope you're not here when I'm here because you're done. Like that. That's so disrespectful.
No, there's
And it's
just no
very
need of it.
crazy that a customer would do that to you. Like
Yeah.
I mean, no, I guess I have. I don't think that's ever happened to me. Honestly, never happened to me. That someone like just straight up ghosted me. That's crazy. That's crazy.
I thought so.
Did you have an inkling beforehand? Like, was this
No,
something
he
you
actually
ever dealt with before? Or?
he had checked in with me a week earlier. Hey, we
Mhm.
still on?
Yeah.
Yeah, we are. And then just didn't come, and I haven't heard from him since.
Well, you weren't out any equipment or labor or anything on it, were you?
No, I just moved on to the next job,
Okay.
but it still bothered me
Yeah, it does.
because
It
it's
does.
like, dude, just call. I
Yeah.
deal with him. I utilize his business,
Hmm.
and which involves him coming to the shop and picking stuff up. He's my scrap guy.
Yeah.
I don't want. I just
Right on.
realized I sounded like I'm selling him drugs. Uh,
Ah!
he's my scrap guy.
Well, he's your scrap guy. Probably some drugs involved. No, I'm just
No,
joking.
none
No,
here.
no, no, I'm just joking.
Uh, but he'll ghost me on picking up my scrap all the time, and I just like, oh, he'll show up when he shows up, no big deal.
Right. Not that big of a deal.
But when you got to put, I'm trying real hard to be organized. I have my wife working with me now as my project manager. She handles my schedule,
Nice.
which has been a total game changer.
Nice.
It's kind of what she does for a living,
Mm,
and so it has translated beautifully into the business.
perfect.
But with that, don't mess with my schedule. If you're supposed to be here, be here.
Hmm.
And luckily, like I said, I'm busy enough. I just, all right, well, he's clearly not coming. Let's move on to the next one.
Yeah.
But he wasted an hour of my time. I didn't want to pull a job in and get everything laid out and have to pick it all back up because he showed up an hour late.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I tell you what, man, a lot of people don't understand what's involved with getting to a job. And I don't even mean like driving to a job, any kind of job. If I have to get out down into the shop and I only live 400 feet, 500 feet away from my shop, but still, like, it's an hour or two to get ready and tear down. Like, and if I have to pull material out and get it on a table or get it on the CNC table or whatever, like, dude, it's pretty big. I had a problem this past summer with a steel yard. I've been racking my brain. Has anyone ever ghosted me? And they didn't totally ghost me, but a steel yard totally, which around where I live, steel is the most reliable thing.
mhm.
If you call the steel yard and you know the guys, which I do, been dealing with them forever, and they say, "Yep, I'll have that on Wednesday." They literally mean it will be there Wednesday. No questions asked. You never have to talk to them again. But this steel yard, I called. I said, I need this. It was a little bit of specialty stuff. It was like 40-foot square tube, half-inch wall thickness, like 8x8. It's a couple different random things that nobody really stocks, but you can get, right? And he said, okay. And I said, this is when I need them, August 10th. This is when I need it. Okay. I've never called anyone back and asked, is it going to be here? Well, August 10th comes around. Well, it was like August 8th. And I say, hey, Bill, whatever his name is, like, how's that going? He's like, bro, I haven't heard anything about it. I'm like, what do you mean you haven't heard anything about it? I've got a truss company with a 20-ton crane here. I've got masons on the ground. I've got 18, like, not my employees. They're just other contractors on the job. Like, there's like 18 guys here, and they need us to hang this steel for this building. What do you mean you don't know where the steel is? And it was the next week, like Thursday, by the time it got there. And he dropped the ball hard. And if it wasn't for weather, like, it just so happened to rain 2 inches over, like, in 3 days or 2 days or something like that, and it was threatening rain for like a whole week. And so most of the other crews just like did what they could and kind of scooted off because they didn't want to get wet. Oh man, if it wouldn't have rained, man, I would have been up the creek. The amount of time it takes to get 2 trucks over to a steel job, get on site, work with the other contractors, figure out what to do, man. And like, okay, well, you're going to get this much done in this amount of time. Well, that means I can call a truss guy to come in and do this. And I got roofers coming in to do that. Yes, 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 yes. All yeses.
Mm-hmm.
Steel doesn't show up. Everybody's twiddling their thumbs, man. Bad news
That's
bears.
brutal.
It is. It is. Thankfully, like I said, the weather cooperated in the wrong way with us.
Right.
And the steel, like we were able to keep certain aspects moving with the steel we had on hand, and yada yada yada. It
Yeah.
was annoying, but anyway, yeah, that's just how. That's like some of the downsides. Some of the downsides of this kind of business. So, where were we before we got into our fast five, which took a long time? It's all good. It's all
I'm a
good.
talker, man.
Yeah,
There's
it's
nothing
all
fast.
good. Nah, it's the way it should be. I mean, these the stuff that we're talking about. There's a lot of lessons involved. There's a lot of little nuggets of gold. And if someone has the ears to hear, two people with a lifetime of experience talking, they can really accelerate their growth. Just learning. Hey, I don't know everything, and these old guys, like I hate to tell you, but if you're looking for someone who's in charge on a job site, if you're looking around like, where's the grown-ups? It's you. You're the grown-up, Scott. Like,
Yeah.
there's no one else. I still am looking around like, there's got to be somebody who's in charge of this multi-million-dollar project. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's me and my partner. Great. I could barely get my socks on this morning, But anyway, if we're at the point we're at in our life and business and everything, and we're still saying like, hey, listen, you need to learn, you need to be able to grow and ask for help. Like a young guy listening to this, that's the nugget you need to get, man. The golden nugget is you need to learn. You need to be okay with not knowing. But a 20-year-old knows everything, right?
Yeah. I've worked with a few kids right out of welding school.
Yes, they're the worst.
Oh my god! I mean, one of them worked for me. Great kid,
Yep.
but he had to get knocked off his pedestal.
Mhm.
I don't know. I don't remember it being that bad when I was that age, but maybe it's just because I was in it.
Because you're in it. Yeah.
But yeah, it's bad. And there's a couple one I work with that millwright company and one that worked for me. Both awesome kids, but man, they knew everything.
Mm-hmm.
And to watch them argue with the old guys,
It's
I had to I had to excuse me, I had to pull one of them
on me.
pull them aside and say, "Hey, man, like you got to understand how this works. These guys have been doing this longer than you've been alive.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you don't agree with them, listen.
Yeah.
Don't argue. Just listen, and you might pick something up.
Yeah. You got to do it the hard way, whatever they quote call the right way or whatever. Like people are, I hate to bring up social media, but like if you look at my Instagram, there's a couple videos on there that have like 1 million plus views, and it's usually me saying you got to do it the hard way, and people are like, no, you got to, bro, you can't find the easy way unless you do it the hard way. And those old guys, the way they're doing it and telling you to do it is their easy way.
Right.
You haven't done it enough to even understand how to improve the process. Until you've done it and then failed at it and then done it again, then maybe if your attitude's correct, you can make a suggestion. And that's not them beating you down and trying to keep everything the way it was. Bro, it's just when people have gone through it 50 times, they know this is the right way. And you may, as a young guy, and I know a lot of young guys, they have a way that they think is better. Okay, try it. Once you've done it the right way, try your better way. Come back. And if it's actually better, we're more than happy to do it. There's like we all want to find a better way, but sometimes you just got to do it the hard way.
Yeah, there is no way around it.
No way around it, man. That's the reality that people in the the entrepreneurial kind of like there's always drop ship this and drop it. There's no easy way to make a living. You're gonna have to make your living by the sweat of your brow and the blood of your hands. And I don't care if you're a doctor or a lawyer or a business, it doesn't matter. It's gonna be by the sweat of your brow and the blood of your hands. It's gonna hurt no matter what. If it's gonna last, it's gonna hurt.
And if it's worth doing.
Yeah, it's worth doing. Um, so is every job you do worth doing? Like I want to go a little not metaphysical, but just a little deeper into this because I think it's worth going there. Um, is everything soul satisfying and purpose giving and like worth doing as now that like so we're kind of skipping a little bit, but you quit your job,
Yeah.
running your shop out of your garage. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Been doing that for how long? You been doing that to now? Like maybe
Three years.
or so. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, is everything worth doing? Like, is everything purposeful? Like,
Well, so
is there some other thing going on? You know?
yeah, I mean, I at face value, is every job worth doing? No, I've gotten myself into some jobs that I wish I hadn't. But
Mm,
as far as big picture, it's 100% worth it. I haven't once regretted the move.
hmm
Even on my worst days, I say it's better than having a real job.
yeah.
And this year has actually been tough. It's weird. Like I said, I've been in business 3 years, and I feel like I've learned more hard lessons this year
Mm,
than I did the previous two.
mm,
Um, I don't know what it is, if I just from stepping out of my comfort zone or making bad decisions or what, but um, it's all been worth it,
yeah.
100%.
Yeah. The uh, what you're experiencing is very normal. It's 100% normal.
Yeah.
The truth is like it takes you it's at least 5 years until you're actually where you ought to be. Like the first year, 3, 4, and I'm not specifically talking about money at all,
Hmm.
really. But there's just things you can't experience in 2 years. There just aren't. There's a bit of momentum that comes and this excitement that comes from starting and like making that leap. There's something in the grind that hurts, but you don't notice until 3 years in, 4 years in. There's a certain confidence that you get from success that puts you in a position to stretch and take on things that you're not ready for. And
Hmm.
sometimes you succeed and sometimes you fail. And those are the lessons that you're learning now. The first 5 years are not for making money. They're for learning. And
Yeah.
you don't make you're not and I'm not saying you specifically. I'm saying
Well,
this.
you're telling my story pretty
Yeah,
accurately.
you
So,
don't make money the first 5 years. Like you can make a living, you can
mhm.
be, whatever. You can pay your bills, but you're not
Right.
actually making money. You're paying tuition, is what you're doing.
Yeah.
You're making tuition payments to borrow a phrase from Pete Roberts from Origin. Um,
I
he,
know Pete.
do you actually know Noah?
Yeah, I know him.
No kidding.
I
He's
know
like
him and his wife Amanda, and his stepdad's a welder.
yeah, that's cool. That's cool. For anyone who doesn't know, Origin Maine, Origin USA these days is a pretty exceptional American-made. From the soil to the shirt, they make everything 100% American-made supply chain. Pete Roberts is the owner, one of the owners, along with Jocko Willink and Dedeco and a bunch of other people. I guess are invested in that now, and it's amazing. It's a beautiful success story of hard work. And they used to have a podcast called Hands in Daylight, which is possibly one of my favorite podcasts of all time. And he made this statement on there one time that every time he made a mistake and failed, and it cost him something, he never called it like a failure or whatever. He said it's just a tuition payment.
Hmm.
He's paying to earn the lesson, and yeah, that's what the first 5 years of business is. It's straight tuition payments. Even when you make
Yeah.
money, you're paying for it.
Yeah.
You're just paying for it, man. So, what are some of those hard lessons you're learning,
Uh,
or
what
situations?
jobs? What I'm working on right now is what jobs I should be taking and shouldn't be taking. I'm trying to get away from. I used to say yes to anything that came through the door, and it kept me busy, not profitable.
Mm,
And I learned, in the beginning, it was cool. Just the fact that anybody wanted something that I made. It was
Right?
like, oh my
Oh,
God, this
man.
is so cool. It wasn't about the money at all. It was just, the money was the byproduct of it. It was
Hmm.
just cool that someone was interested in my work. Now it's still cool, but there's bills to be paid. It's not just fun and games. If I'm going to run a business, I have to run a business.
Hmm.
The business is part of it. Uh, so I actually just yesterday, day before, turned down a job that I normally would have taken, even though I know it's not a good business decision. So that was kind of my first step
Hmm.
into. I'm hoping for the new year that like this is going to be the year where I implement all these things, all the lessons I learned. So yeah, I'm trying to get away from residential
Okay.
as much as I can.
Yeah.
The artwork stuff, big business signs and stuff, sure, but I don't want to be doing the wall hangers.
Hmm.
Um, I want to get more into like I'd rather be working on an excavator or a dump truck
Hmm.
or machining parts for the paper mill.
Hmm.
And I got into line boring. That's the future of my business is portable line boring.
Okay.
Uh,
All right.
uh, I built a machine to prove out the market. It worked. I bought a machine and I've kind of got it on. I did a few jobs and now I've got it on idle while I pin up all this backlog of work I don't want to be doing
Mm.
so I can open the floodgates on line boring come the new year.
Yeah. So how did you come to understand, like, what, how did you learn that lesson that there's jobs you don't want to do? How did that occur?
Time after time of I go to start this job and it's just taking too long, taking way longer than what I can charge for it. If I said that right,
Okay. Okay.
not worth it's not worth the time it takes. I spend 5 hours like the $40 floor grate that I spent 10 hours on when I first started. It's not as bad as that, but that type of thing. Like that job that I just turned down was a flower pot stand. A girl sent me a picture of a flower pot stand. Hey, can you make one of these? And it's like, yeah, I can, but
Was
you're
she
not
from
going to want to pay
Pennsylvania?
$300 for this thing.
Was she from Pennsylvania?
Mm-hmm.
Because there's actually a local lady here, and like I have learned that lesson many years ago, and but for a long time I said yes to everything, and so I have a good reputation actually. Hopefully I do. I think I do. People say I do, but yeah, she said, hey, I was at this craft show, and there was this thing made of metal. Do you think you could make something like this for my kid's wedding or whatever it was? And I was like, I can. I totally can. But I do not do that anymore. And she's like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
that stinks. Like, oh, and I'm like, I know, it does stink. I had a lot of fun doing a lot of those projects, but I can't anymore. I am not set up for that. That is not my business anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard. It's hard to say no.
It is.
Why do you
It
think it's
really
so hard
is.
to say no?
My wife says I'm a people pleaser,
Mm.
and I always wanted to be the guy that people went to for something. They were friends I had growing up that they had their niche. They were the guy. Whether it was welding or for fixing your car. Just I thought that was cool. That yeah, go see Danny. If you need your transmission rebuilt, Danny's the guy. It's like I'm the guy for nothing. I'm the BMX kid, but big deal. And this whole metalworking thing suddenly, slowly, but made me the guy to go to for something.
Mhm.
So I,
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. That's just been a deep seated thing. I've always wanted to be the guy for something.
Yeah.
Now I've got it, and it seems counterintuitive to tell people no
Hmm.
when I wanted for so long to be the guy.
Yeah.
Now I
Yeah.
am, and I don't want it. But
Yeah. It's not
and
that
it's
you don't.
not that I don't want it; it's that I can't afford to
Right.
do it.
Right. Yeah. A friend of mine has a pretty big company these days, but he didn't always. He had a small. It was a smaller company back in the old days, and I did work for him here and there, and they used to build, they like say part numbers in their shop that they built like products, It was literally unlimited. They're like, if it's made of this material, we'll make it.
Mm-hmm.
We have literally unlimited part numbers. And that was 12 years ago back then. Um, they made, I mean, they made it through some bad times doing that. But now they have unique part numbers. Now they have different part numbers for different models of the same product, but
Mm-hmm.
unique products that they build, three. They build three unique products. Now they have
Yep.
accessories for their product, like secondary parts that you could purchase extra or whatever that they've developed over the years. But
Mm-hmm.
they used to have literally an infinite number of part numbers.
Yeah.
I think at one point, like the actual number of part numbers was like 100 and 112, 114, something like that,
Wow.
of different kinds of products that they could manufacture.
Yeah.
A guy said, "Hey, this guy he builds custom watches in New York City. He said, "Hey, I need a custom watch box for my $22,000 custom watches. They start at $22,000." They were like, "Yep, we'll build you watch boxes. We'll build them," and they did. They did. My business partner, he actually built many watch boxes for this company.
Hmm.
They currently have three unique part numbers.
Yeah.
Three. And they are way more successful. They
Yeah.
make
Hone it in
way
and
more.
be the best at it.
They are the best, and like they are the best at the product. There's
Mm-hmm.
no one else in the market that can compete with them. Um, there's another local company here. They've taken a different approach. Um, they focused on a specific kind of industry, so they work in the high end drag racing market. So, like high end drag racing cars.
Yeah.
There are people who build them. There are garage mechanics all over the country that are building them. Well, they make high end suspension components for drag racing cars. Now they're into like autocross and
Hmm.
some of the or like drift cars and stuff like that.
Yep.
But they are very focused on suspension products for high performance cars, not supercars, not pickup trucks, like
Mm-hmm.
high performance drag racing cars. His idea is like people are like, "Oh, do you have a patent on that? A patent on this?" Because he got some unique products. He's like, "No, I don't have a patent on that." Well, why not? Someone could make it. He's like, "Let them."
Uh-huh.
It's like we have better customer service, we have better quality, and by the time they figure out how to make this part at scale, I've got five other ideas I'm already producing. So he
Yep.
just keeps building more stuff, more stuff, more
Sure.
stuff. But he's really narrowed his focus to this very, very, very specific thing. He doesn't make bumpers for cars. He doesn't make roll cages for cars. He doesn't make seats for cars. He doesn't make dashboards, steering wheels, transmissions, rear ends. He makes high grade suspension products for high performance cars. That's it. If you want a trunk lid for whatever, I don't do that. Go find someone
Yeah.
else. If you want paint, I don't paint anything. And so I think the focusing in on specific things that matter to you is a an important lesson to learn. It doesn't mean you
Mm-hmm.
can't do other things. It just
Right.
means you have to find that thing. So how do we identify? Like, how did you come to the understanding that, like, you could have just said, "Hey, I'm going to be the sign guy. I'm going to make. I'm going to streamline my sign production. I'm going to buy three lasers. I'm going to get the best optimized website. I'm going to market the crap out of it." You could have done that, and people have done it, and they make a lot of money,
Mm-hmm.
and they make a good living. So, how did you decide to focus on the things that you focus on?
Well, for the example of being the sign guy, there's just I don't derive a lot of pleasure from it. It's just
Mm,
not what I'm into. I worked in a production machine shop for over a decade. I don't like production. I know there's money in it,
mhm.
but I didn't. I didn't walk away from the paper mill to make the potential to make more money, but that wasn't the driving factor. It was happiness.
Mm,
I want to like what I'm doing, and I'm figuring it out as I do it. I do a job. Well, I didn't really like that, or I line board a big excavator last summer when I got my machine, and it's like, wow, this is incredible. I love
Yeah,
this.
I like this.
So
Yeah.
that's kind of it's hard. Like if I was to write a procedure for picking a job, I don't know how I would write that right now.
Mm,
It's kind of just what's making me happy and what isn't. And as I go, I know the signs don't make me happy. That's
right.
and there's not a lot of money in them.
So, so is it what's easy? Is that
No,
what's makes you happy? Like, so I have a weird thing with happiness. My thing with happiness, here it is. Happiness is a terrible goal. It's a great side effect.
yeah,
Like if you chase happiness, and I'm not saying you specifically, I am saying you. If you decide all I want is to be happy, you will wind up being miserable because you can never find it. It's not a measurable thing. You can't find happiness. You can't like put it in a box. You can't like no amount of dollars will buy it. If it did, like why do billionaires commit suicide? Like
right.
why do very, 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 very hyper successful people who are doing exactly what they said they wanted to do? I want to be an actor, an artist, a musician. Why do they suffer greatly from drug and alcohol addiction and wind up dead at 27? If they were doing exactly what their goal, like they accomplished every goal they want, that was what would make them the most happy. Because you can't ever be satisfied. Like if you said, "Oh, my goal for happiness is I want this X number of dollars, and then I'll be happy." Once you get $35,000 in the bank, what now? What now? What now? And so there's something. So it's happiness to me isn't the goal.
Well,
Uh,
saying that's a side effect, that's a good way to look at it.
Side effect. Mm,
Yeah, I like that because that's how it is, and it's not easy. I usually get more happiness from a tough job that came out good,
that's a secret.
right? Because easy's boring.
It is.
So I mean, that's what we do. We solve problems, and for me, that makes me happy to be able to take just a nightmare and sort it out and
Mhm.
make something happen. And it's like, yeah, all right,
Yeah.
that's what I want to be doing. No, and like the emergency calls to go out after I've been working all day to go work all night and get a machine up and running that was down, losing tons of money. That makes me happy.
Yeah.
That's a
Yeah.
great feeling.
Yep.
You
That
know, yeah,
satisfaction.
yeah. Maybe
Job
that's
well
more
done.
a better way to say it is just satisfaction.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to like nitpick. I'm not in the business of nitpicking people's vocabulary, but I agree. Like finding purpose long term is important. I think. I mean, I think about this all the time, so I have like a ready response. You have to serve something greater than yourself, and so that could be any number of things. And one of those things could be uh, when you do an emergency repair like there's how many people work at the paper mill? Well, that many people are counting on you solving these problems.
Right.
Even the guy who still works in the steam shop, like you don't get this stuff fixed on time, and it just crap rolls downhill. It just
Mm-hmm.
does, right? And so you're actually in doing that, you're serving a purpose greater than yourself. Struggle has to be there. If there was no struggle, there's some philosopher I'm sure said, I just don't remember who it was when I read it, but anyway, they said if you could build a world um, that everything was taken care of, you had all your physical needs were met, and there was no struggle to find your physical needs being met, men would burn it down
Mm-hmm.
just to see something happen. And that's the truth. We would find our own trouble if we didn't have something larger than ourselves to serve, and if we weren't intentionally giving ourselves struggle.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like our work is struggle, and getting out of the struggle leads to a lack of happiness or purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Because think about it, like the tattered flags are a great example. You could print money with tattered flags if you had enough marketing back 5 years ago.
Yeah.
You could literally
Right.
just print money, and you could optimize your process so you could print out a flag every 6 seconds and ship it automatically, and you could sit Mai Tais on the beach in Cancun for the next 5 years,
Mm-hmm.
you would not be happy doing that because
No.
you have to struggle against something and you have to serve the greater good, however you want to define that. Like making tchotchke stuff for people to hang on their garage wall may not do it for you. It just may not.
No, it
So,
does not.
yeah. So, doing something harder actually serves the purpose of bringing you more satisfaction.
Yep.
Yeah. So, it's finding that hard thing that allows you to continually learn.
Mm-hmm.
No line board job is ever going to be the same. You might find some that are similar
Mm-hmm.
process, but it's not going to be the same. You're going to have to set up boring bars different. Supports are going to be different. You're going to be cold one day. It's going to be hot some other day. Like
Mm-hmm.
one's going to be in the middle of the winter inside someone's shop. One's going to be in the blazing sun. Out by a swamp somewhere. Some logging company just blew their skidder in half, and you're out there like, I hope this works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing for a process that seems repetitive, how different it can be.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. What do you think the difference between a welder and a machinist is? Are they the same guy?
Oh boy. Yes and no. Um, Man, that's tough. That's really easy to get offensive.
That's okay. Yeah, if you're listening to this, I hope you got some thick skin.
Yeah,
I was going to ask you a union question, but I didn't want my car to get burned in the driveway. So,
yeah.
but,
I worked at the mill. It was a union job,
mhm,
and it was only because I had to. I'll
yeah.
leave it at that.
Hey, man,
Um,
it, I have nothing at all against a union man, a guy working, doing his job who happens to work for a union. There's nothing wrong with that in the least. Everybody's got to make their living. That's it, man. And
yeah,
there can be problems with the structure, but the man there with a tool in his hand, got all my respect in the world.
yeah,
Um, yeah, the structure can be real weird, but that's above my pay grade. Let's just say.
yeah. I could go on for hours
Yeah,
about
me
my
too.
opinions on
Maybe
that.
we'll have to get like three people on, and like two union guys and two non-union guys, and just have like a good conversation, because I think there's a lot that could be said if people could put their egos to the side about union
Hmm.
stuff. Like there are businesses, not even business, there are industries that exist that there's no possible way that people would still be living doing those jobs if it wasn't for a union.
Yeah,
Like there just aren't. Like I have friends of mine that are prison guards, and if it wasn't for their union, they'd be mandated to work every night. They'd get piss and crap thrown on them every evening, and there would be no boundaries. The state would destroy these guys. It's already
yeah,
tough enough to be a prison guard, or a cop or whatever. Like, come on, the union does an okay job for those kind of folks, and
yeah.
the idea of a weekend, I'm real happy about that. But
Oh yeah,
for most of our trades, we've gotten to the point where it's safe enough, and safety culture has gotten to the point where like they're not actually pushing a safer work environment. They're just pushing more rules and regulations. There's just a lot of stuff that goes on there. But anyway, so whew. So what's the difference between a welder and a machinist? Do you Are they
yeah.
the
I
same
get
or not? Like I think that's an interesting thought.
well. The more I get immersed in welding and knowing welders, the more I have learned that they are similar. Because my first thought would be, machinist is a precision trade.
Mm-hmm.
But the more I've learned, well, so is welding. It can be,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
It's different.
just as much. But I think about the welders that work at the landfill
Mm-hmm.
repairing dumpsters, and they're slapping booger welds on dumpsters, and
Mm-hmm.
well, they're no machinist.
Yeah.
But you get into like nuclear welding, and I mean, there's all kinds of examples of
Yeah.
precision welding. So
I think even the
and
fabrication side of welding, like I know people try to like cut this stuff apart, but like for most people, you can't be just a welder. Like all I do is burn rod all day. Like I know pipeliners, blah blah blah, but for most people, you just can't. That's not real. You have to fabricate. Sometimes you got to do mechanic work. You know, you
mm-hmm.
might have to dig a hole from time to time. Like, don't tell any other welders this, but you might have to do things that don't involve welding. And the precision that's needed and like the care that's needed, it's different than being a machinist, I think, but it's
Yeah, it's
still
different, but
there.
I think is it the same job? No, but is it the same guy? Yeah, I mean, you have to care about what you're doing. You have to learn and understand your craft. You have to be able to follow a blueprint. You have to know how to make your tools of the trade do what you need them to do. How to manipulate them, whether it's a machine or if you're welding.
Hmm.
Uh, I I do. It takes the same type of guy, and here I am. I'm a machinist and obsessed with welding.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I asked the
I
question.
used.
I asked the question because, like, I have gone into plenty of machine shops that have welding machines under the workbench, and they
Mm-hmm.
don't get touched, and they're too ego driven to ask for help on how to set up that TIG welder.
Yeah.
And so they're like, well, we're just gonna burn this bird crap onto onto this part because we're just gonna machine it off anyway. And I've walked into, I personally own a lathe that and a mill, and guess what? I just cut through steel with it. I don't know how to set it up right, but I don't ask. I'm not interested in doing it. I'll
Yep.
cut a slot in a plate or a keyway in a piece of shaft, and that's as far as I get. And it's gonna if you're a real machinist, you're gonna be like, oh, that's rough. You're right, it is. Job's done. And
Yeah.
so that's my question is really what kind of and it's not I'm gonna get out of machinists and welders, but what kind of character do you think is important for people coming into the trades? And we can make it as broad or as narrow as you want, but what kind of character traits or characteristics of
Hmm.
a person, what do you think is necessary to be successful, to grow and build a good life in the trades?
Integrity. That integrity is everything.
Hmm.
Um,
Talk about that for a while. Like, what do you see like on the bad side, the good side? Like, what does it mean to have integrity while you're a tradesperson?
integrity being upfront and honest, uh, mainly. That goes back to like my no call no show. That's an integrity problem. Um, you think you know you're making a name for yourself, and you have to represent that name. If you're coming into this, you have to be ready to. How do I want to say this? Here I am saying it's the most important thing, and I can't think of
I know,
how to
I
vomit it
know,
out.
I know. That's why I asked because it like we say that, but like, what does it mean for a young guy coming in and he's not starting his own business? He's just coming in to go to work at the mill or coming in to go to work at the landfill. Like
Yeah,
I
that
get
means
it,
it means coming
integrity.
in on time, ready to work, understanding your job, and wanting to do the best job that you can do on a daily basis. You almost want to be invited back to that job the next day.
Mhm. Yeah.
That that's what it means to me.
Hmm.
That I mean, and like I said, just the honesty thing. Making mistakes, always own up to it.
Hmm.
That got me out of trouble one time. I know I'm going off on a tangent
Go
here, but
for it.
uh, when I was working at the machine shop, I made mistakes all the time. It happened. The amount of parts that we would put out, you make a lot of mistakes on occasion,
Sure, sure.
and I would always own up to it. Hey, I put this decimal point in the wrong place, or I forgot to change the tool length on my tool, or I ran this too hard, or I didn't tighten the whatever. And one time something happened, and my boss came up to me and was kind of hinting that I had done something wrong. And I said, "Hey, when have I ever hesitated to admit when I made a mistake?"
Mm.
He says, "You know what? You're right." And that was the end of it. Never heard another word about it.
There it is. Yeah.
So that's integrity,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And then perseverance, wanting to do better. Um, Try to not get complacent with where you're at. Don't be satisfied with where you're at. You always want to, just like riding bikes. You stuck that trick. What's the next trick to learn? What's the next level that you can get to in that job, whether you're working for someone or running your own show?
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. Like integrity is the willingness or the ability to do the right thing, even when it hurts,
Yes.
like even when it hurts. And people don't want to really hear that. I don't think a lot of people want it. They want to come to work and like, oh, I don't need to have soft skills. I don't need to be nice or whatever. You kind of do. You're going to spend, like 90% of your life working. Like I work and I come home for 4 hours a day, and that's about it. And then I go to sleep. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's the truth of it. And these people around you, like you're gonna make your living off of your name. And sometimes you're gonna have to tell the truth and just pay for it. It's not
Mm-hmm.
gonna work out. And like, well, no, I didn't do that. You're right. You're still gonna get fired. Well, I didn't mean to do this. Yep, you're still gonna lose that job, lose that bid. It's just the way it works. And if you don't come into if you don't develop that muscle of integrity, that integrity muscle, it's so easy to cheat. It's so easy to lie. It's so easy to tell a half truth or hide that broken piece under the workbench. And
Mm-hmm.
and you'll make it for a little while. You can hide that. But if you're going to live in the same town, work in the same industry for 5, 6, 10, 12, 20 years, you're going to get found out.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. There's no way around it.
Yeah. Like you said, especially when it hurts. I recently had a job that it went south on me.
Mm.
Um,
Talk about it.
yeah, I was debating on whether to bring it up. It's still
Yes.
kind of a sore
It
subject.
hurts real bad.
This just concluded a couple weeks
Oh,
ago.
man.
I built my first monostringer staircase for a guy. It was a switchback with a landing,
Okay. Yep.
and it was all powder coated. And
I'm getting sick to my stomach just thinking about it, actually.
I was really late on the project.
Mm.
I kept in contact with the guy, to let him know, hey, this is where I'm at. This is what's going on. I haven't forgotten you. But every one of those emails, it killed me. It was embarrassing,
Mm-hmm.
but I had to be upfront with him. And then we finally get the thing installed, and there were problems. One of which being one of the rails got dented, and you could see it clear as day. And one, I don't understand how. To this day, I don't understand how it happened. I mocked the whole thing up in my shop, and I had chunks of the tread that I could use for spacers as a mock-up. Everything touched. I go to install it, and I got 1 foot 5/8 up in the air. An angle, it doesn't. Yeah, no kidding. I wanted to puke.
Yep.
I had 2 guys I hired to come help me install this thing. We're here. We're late. It's time for this to be done. And what do you do? It's already powder coated, and I found the dent. Ended up, I had to fix it. Had to take it back up. The customer saw it, which sucks. You should always have this stuff fixed before the customer sees it. That's why I call it lapse in judgment. I made a spacer for that gap, thinking that, well, maybe this will be okay. It was not okay. And that's where I had a lapse in judgment, hauled it out. He says, I want the leg extended. I can live with the dent. And I said, you are absolutely not going to live with the dent. You paid for a good product. You're going to get a good product. And so I had to pull it back out, had to hire guys to come with me to pull it back out, strip it, repair it, get it repowder coated. And we had to get one of the treads repaired. And that all came out of my pocket. This was my mistake.
Yep.
That's my name hanging on it.
Yep.
And on top of being late also, it still kind of makes me queasy thinking about it.
Yep.
But it's fixed. It's in. He's happy now.
Mm-hmm.
And that's you have to do that. I never should have let him see it to begin with. I'm first to admit that. But when there's an issue, no matter how much it hurts and what it costs, you have to fix it.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I am like feeling that in my guts. Literally in my guts. Because I've been there. I know exactly how that feels. It burns. I mean, there's no way around it. Man, I feel for you. I'm sorry. I'll tell you what though, finishing it up and fixing it, that's the only way forward. And procrastinating and making excuses and pretending and blaming other people, nah, that's gonna hurt a lot worse down the line.
Yeah.
Man, it's gonna hurt so much worse down the line. And anyone,
that's one thing working for yourself too. There's no one to blame.
There's no one else
for the good stuff or the bad. It lands on you.
Yeah. There's no one else to take it. There's no one else to share it with. It's very lonely. It's a very lonely space, and it's very dark. I don't want to pretend like it's easy. It's not, man. It is so hard. But that's what we signed up for. I'm glad you went through that. There's no lesson like, well, I should have. The first thing is you already learned it. You learned the lesson. You got to just suck it up, do what's right, even when it hurts. That's a hardcore thing. That's what literally causes people to just quit. Just say, I'm done. Yeah. I'm not going to do this anymore. I refuse to do this anymore. I won't suffer in this way anymore. There's another little lesson, and you may not like it, but you're going to pay it over and over and over and over again. And that is, if there are two ways to do something, an easy way and a hard way, skip the easy way and go right to the hard way, because you're going to have to do it the hard way no matter what.
Yeah.
Like that dent, there's only one way to fix it. Do it right now. That spacer that you built, you shouldn't have built it. You should have just fixed it. But you had to try, right? To the next time, don't try. I know it sounds crazy. Don't.
No,
try.
That's absolutely right. And I've been pretty hard on myself about it, and I feel like I deserve it.
You do.
It's like because I know better. I know better, and it shouldn't happen. And I don't know. I just call it a lapse in judgment.
Yeah.
Because integrity is my thing. That's what I try to run everything on, and that just didn't fall in line with my theory.
Yeah.
And it made me feel like garbage.
That's his life. You're gonna there's a million excuses to be made, and the way I live my life is I try to be really hard on myself. I hold myself to a high standard, but I'm really easy on everybody else because I know how bad it is inside of me. Because I am not okay on the inside after doing what I've done my whole life, and so I try to be real easy on everybody else. You'll never see me make fun of somebody's weld or oh, look at that piece of concrete, it broke. Bro, you don't know what happened. You don't know what was going on. So I try to be real hard on myself, real easy on everybody else. And if you're going to be hard on yourself, you got to learn a lot of lessons. And so you learned don't ever do a mono stringer again, but there's things that you can do on the front side to make your life better, to make your life, give yourself some more space on front side and back side. pad your bid a little bit more. And if you don't get it, that's okay. We'll make it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the time thing. But when you're in that situation and you're behind the eight ball on time, then you're behind the eight ball on money, and then you're behind the eight ball on the other jobs, and then there's no more jobs coming in on the backside of that one, and you have guys staring at you, and you're supposed to know what to do, and the customer, they're not even. It'd be better if they were just yelling at you, if they just scream at you, but they're like, no,
Right.
no, I understand, buddy, it's good, you'll get it done, and you're like, just tell me I suck and fire me. They can't, they won't, and they just want you to finish, man. And it's just hard. It's hard. That's the valley. That's the valley.
That was the valley for sure.
Yeah, that's the valley. And you're 3 years in, man. You're just starting in on that journey. I just want to encourage you. If you're learning these lessons at 3 years, you're going to be set up for long-term success at 5, 6, 7, 8, 10. If you can see yourself, doing this that far out.
I have no intentions of hanging it up. That job was the first time when I'm like, what am I doing here? But
I love it.
you know, what I mean?
I love it. What am I
But
doing?
I still go out in the shop every day and just work towards getting over it.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't the end. It was a job. It didn't go well. We learn. We move on. I'm in this for the long haul. I want this to work. I want my daughter or my stepson someday to take over the shop.
Yeah.
I want this to be there for them. I want it to be something they can be proud of as much as I am.
Yeah.
I'm not going anywhere.
That's awesome, dude. That's a little just golden nugget of what it means to be in the trades, is that at the end of the day, you screwed that up. No other way around it. You can still build something that you can be proud of.
Yeah.
That's not the end, man. You're not going to get disbarred. You're not going to, no one's going to fire you in that way. Like, if you just keep going out to the shop every day, putting the hammer down, if you keep telling the truth, being honest. I know it sounds like kind of hokey and like, oh, it's not that simple. It is that simple. You can build something that you can be proud of, that your family can be proud of, that your kids can be proud of, that when you drive through town, you can say, let's see that bench over there. Yeah, we made that bench at the shop. Like when you drive through, and it's like tradesman dad, like, oh, you see that house? I put the stairs in there. Like, that's what we do. But we can be proud of it. At the end of the day, like, you can look back and say there was a start, there was a struggle, there was a finish. It's over, and look at how beautiful it is. And the people who aren't in the trades, who aren't in the blue collar world, they can't say that. They can't really say that. Like, you see how many divorces I got settled as a divorce lawyer? Like, congratulations on that one. Like, and I don't want to like denigrate lawyers or whatever, but how many times can you balance the books as an accountant? Like, it just, there's nothing, like, we just weren't, some of us, most of us, I think, weren't made for tapping at a computer all day mindlessly. There's just so much more beauty and so much more goodness that we can find just building things. And and I'm excited for you. I'm super stoked for what's going to happen with you in the future. I think you got a great start. A couple more almost going bankrupts, and you're going to make something of yourself one day, buddy.
I sure hope so.
Yeah. So, like, we're coming up on some good time here. We could probably go on for another 3 hours, I'm sure. But where are you now? And like, what do you got going on now? And what's like the big takeaway that you hope listeners get if they make it through all 2+ hours of this ramble?
Well, where I'm at right now is, like I said, trying to work my way out of my backlog of the types of jobs I don't really want to be doing anymore, and sliding right into the stuff I do want to be doing. And I think it's going to work. I'm mixing in the good stuff, so it should be an easy transition. Mm-hmm. I don't want to just cut the head off and then Oh, now what?
Yeah.
I've already made that jump when I quit my job. So that's the goal for the future. And I hope that what someone could take away from this would be that you can do it. Make the jump if you really truly want to. Make the jump and do it. Don't wait for that perfect time. And you can make mistakes that aren't going to cripple you forever.
Mm.
Ask me because I did it.
Yeah. You can
Take your licks and move on.
Yeah. You can make mistakes. That's huge. That's huge, man. And I really appreciate your time. I don't want to belabor it or waste it or anything like that. Um, Thank you so much for taking the time to share a little glimpse into like your story, your journey of getting to where you are. Um, Nobody's telling these stories. Uh, Nobody's even looking to hear them, and it's important that we do tell them. It's important that we don't kind of hide in the shadows and think, well, it's not really that cool what we do, or not really important what we do. It is important. The world needs people like you to do the things that you do. Your you doing your job like the way that you do it is a gift to this world and to your local community and your family. Um, and I hope that one day that gift gets returned to you uh, with little appreciation plaques that all have presidents' faces printed on them called dollar bills. I hope that you're very successful in what you do, and I know success is some people define it differently. I hope that man that you make it and it works well for you and your family. That one day you guys can all sit, be proud, the grandkids, and a yeah, big beautiful shop in the backyard. All right. So
I really appreciate it, man.
yeah, thanks.
It's good chatting with
It's
you.
good chatting too. If anybody's out there listening, I believe you are. There's no way that you can support this. I'm not doing any ads. I don't promote anything on this podcast. All you can do is listen and share it with somebody because it helped you out, because it mattered, because it was important. That's it. I'm not ever going to add advertisements to this. I'm not going to try to be somebody that we're not. We're going to tell the truth all the time, every time, about the good stuff and the bad stuff, the mountains and the valleys. So thank you guys for listening. See you on the flip side.